Hi, nice to meet you guys. It's good to have you here. Basically, what will we be covering in this would be mostly how to craft an interview worthy personal statement. And this is coming from data that we have gained over the past 3 years since I've been doing this. And this is from Math Cycle 2023, 2024, and 2025. And that's how we have developed the process. We've worked with applicants who applied before and they're the same application. And then we just changed the personal statement, how the rest of the application was worded. And we got a very good response in the number of interview invites that they got the next time. And just to let you know, they didn't have a massive change and they didn't give step 3 or that didn't change. It was just how things were worded. That can have a huge impact, and I'll show you how that can have a huge impact. So our agenda here is talking about first, how do program directors or residency directors, how are they trained to evaluate your application? This is using the 3X framework that we will talk about. The number one part is EACM model, which we'll discuss. This is a model that's actually what they use in medical school to select who gets to become a doctor or not in the US. The second model is ACGME's Six Core Competencies, which is used by program directors to screen through applications to see who would be a good fit for their program or not, and also their specialty. Third model is column model. This is the most widespread model in order to communicate with people. This is used by executives, by program directors, just to have a massive, bigger appeal in how they talk and a more wider appeal. And this is basically the 3X framework that they use. And that's kind of where I use the PS3X process from reverse engineer these models and then using that application. Thirdly, we'll just go into a few communication and personal statement insights. And fourthly, just the live application and how do we apply this process and get you to the first in just a day that fast. And in the end, we'll just keep a one-to-one Q&A with, if you guys want to stay back, again, I don't mind giving time to this. I can just stay back. And if you have any questions regarding the whole process, I'm happy to answer that, but with that answer personalized to you. I'll just give this 5 to 10 more minutes so that everyone else can join and then we will get started. But in that time, I just wanted to get a brief introduction from everyone else about what their journey is and where they are. That'd be very helpful. So I see there's a few faces here. There's Abhig. So Abhigyan, can you tell me a bit about yourself, where you're from, and what are you applying to?
Yeah. Hi, Manik.
Hi.
So I hope you're having a good day. So actually, I am a Match 2027 applicant. So currently, I am a graduate. I'm done with my step 1 and I'll be giving my step 2 by January 2026. And I have done so far 2 rotations and I'll be applying to universities. I have delayed my graduation, so I haven't taken my degree. So I'll be applying to universities for my electives to do them next year. And yes, other than that, I have 6 abstracts presented at ACC, AHA. I'm basically an aspiring internal medicine applicant and I want to pursue cardiology further down the line. So that's why I have taken this research approach, because anyways, I'll be just getting 2 years during my residency, and cardiology fellowship is really difficult to get there.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So there's a lot of people we can think this might take a lot of time, the introduction itself. We can do that later on. But we'll talk about how Abhigyan framed his situation. I think it was amazing. His CV was amazing, but we will talk about how do you talk about yourself, your story, in a way that people want to listen more. And again, you can have the greatest CV, the best credentials, but if it's not something that makes people want to listen to it, or it's not in a right narrative, which I feel like international medical graduates, they're not trained as well in that. I wasn't trained either. It's harder to follow along. And it's sometimes, if it's not humbling or if it doesn't look framed properly, it looks like there's a layer of arrogance. Not that you are arrogant, it's just that there might be a perception just because of communication differences in how we communicate across the world versus the US, where they might think, okay, there's a layer of arrogance, or this guy doesn't really, I don't want to listen to him more. Would the patients want to listen to this guy? So let's start the process, this whole masterclass. So just let me know if you can't hear me or there are any issues, and I'd be happy to chime along, but let's start, okay? As I've already talked about, the agenda is first, let's talk about the residency director's mindset. So this is a survey that was taken from program directors all over the US in all specialties to ask them, hey, what do you care the most about in terms of who do you want to interview and who you don't want to interview? So what is that screening process looks like? What's the number one most important factor, number two, number three, number four? And at the time this survey was done, they said that this was a time when step one was not pass fail, you had a numerical score. So they said like the step one score was one of the biggest factors. However, this changed. And you can see now we don't have the step one score. And one of the biggest factors now is the failure attempt. If there's a failure attempt, that is one of the screening out or ruling out. That's how they rule out. So that's higher. But I wanted to take a notice at what's on the second part. That's letter of recommendations. Third is MSPE. Fourth is USMLE step 2 score, which has gone up. Fifth is whatever grade is required in clerkships. This is more for American medical students and graduates. And lastly, there's personal statement. And what I wanted to look at is how many of them cited this is a very important factor, whether to give an interview or not. And what is it above? It is even above the failure attempts in USMLEs. It's even above the evidence of professionalism. So even if you have done something unprofessional, this is above that. Because we'll talk about why this is so, right? Perceived commitment to specialty, if there are backups, it's above that. And also even doing an elective. Just let's look at the last one here. So if you look at the elective thing here, audition, elective rotation with your department, it's even like we are at that level elective with your rotation. We are higher than that level with the personal statement. So what are they exactly looking for when you look at this? So many people think, again, this is just scores, step one, step two, that's what matters. And it used to be the case. However, now if you look at this, right, residency director's mindset, this is a mixture of what they're selecting for is a mixture of the quantitative aspects, which is your step one score, step two score, how many research publications you had, plus a qualitative evaluation using 3 models that they use. The first one is AAMC's. This is the medical committee that kind of decides who should become a medical student or not at any given hospital in the US. And they release guidelines and they've created a model called EACM. You can Google it. There's research on this. The second one is core competencies. This is used using the ACGME criteria, which is the Accreditation Council of Graduate Medical Education. They're the ones that give guidelines on the residency selection process and also resident training process. And they've created 6 core competencies to evaluate who's a good resident and who's not a good resident, who should come and who should not come. Last is the process communication model. This is widespread in the US in terms of how do you increase the appeal of your communication in terms of communicating to a wide array of people. So let's first talk about the EACM model and what it is. So EACM stands for experiences, attributes, competencies, and metrics. Let's go a bit deeper into what these are. So when you look at this, so experiences, they relate to the journey that you have taken and the context in which such experiences have occurred. So if you look here, there's an outer ring of experiences, and then there's an inner ring of experiences. Outer ring of experiences is what has influenced you regionally, nationally, worldwide. Do you just have regional experiences, just have national experiences, or are there international experiences where you've gone to maybe other countries or volunteered or maybe gone for an elective or some other work experience? The inner applicant path is what is the path that you have taken in terms of your personal level experiences, your volunteer research experiences, education, your even high school that you went to, any community service you've done. What is that pattern that follows? Is this more of a research person? Is it a person who is more dedicated towards volunteer activities or just clinical work? What is the delta diversity that they have been exposed to in terms of, because US is a diverse culture. Do you have an idea of how to acclimatize yourself to different different cultures? And how do you, if you know that, how do you do that? So how does your application reflect that? That is the experiences. So they're looking at the depth of the experiences you've had in any context of volunteer, research, clinical experiences, and the width of those experiences in terms of, are they just local? Are they at the level of the national or international experiences? Second level is attributes. These are the skills, abilities, and personal qualities that you have. Attributes are like intellectual curiosity, adaptability, pragmatism. Are you a team player? Integrity, humility, cultural competence, leadership qualities, compassion, empathy, language proficiency. You generally won't have all of them, but it is very important to at least have the ones that they are looking for, the fit to that program or the medical school. So these are your attributes. These are the skills, abilities, and personal qualities. That's the second layer. Third layer is what we call as competencies. These relate to the six core competencies. And competencies is how do you blend your experiences in terms of the depth of your experiences and the width of your experiences, like locally, internationally, plus your. An example is, let's say me. I am somebody who might be termed as somebody who's high agency, which is you can give me whatever project you have. I don't need any more directions from you. I can take it from 0 to 100 by myself, even without a team, because I have trained myself in different. An example is this current masterclass you are seeing. So nobody trained me in how to send emails, how to do social media. Nobody trained me in how to make a good pitch. Nobody trained me in how to make a presentation. I learned that by myself and I took it from 0 to 100. That is an attribute called agency, which they're looking for. And experience is I have been to Brazil, I've been to America, I've been to other countries. So I now know how to connect to different cultures. And if you look the population that I serve in terms of, let's say, social media, that there tends to be more international because of my experiences that I've had, and I'm able to touch more people, even outside of India, even though I am from India. While if you look at other people, they might not be able to do that. So I'm combining that high agency with my experience, which is international. I know how different cultures function. I know how to connect and I blend them together, and that becomes a competency. There are six core competencies that we'll talk about later and how the program directors are evaluating that. Lastly are the metrics. These are the factors which can be quantitatively measured. Again, whenever you're buying a phone or whenever you're buying a computer, you're looking at some quantitative aspects. What's the processor? Is it the latest processor? Is it like what is the RAM that it has? What is the storage that it has? And that's very important. But then beyond that, you want quality. So why do people buy Apple? The reason people buy Apple is beyond just the numbers and what Android might offer. Apple has that added touch of experience, which makes it like maybe the fastest operating system, the most used operating system. And also the quality of the products matters. So program directors are looking for the quality using your experiences, attributes, and competency. So the Apple level experiences and metrics, they're looking at just what is your processor level, where like your intelligence level, because that's very important, research publication. So here they're looking at your USMLE scores. If you're a US candidate, it's GPA, what was your GPA, MCAT score, your number of USEs that you have done, not just the quality, the MSPEs and the GPA. So that's the EACM holistic review model and everything in your application. So this is your personal statement, your ERA CV, even your interviewing. Whenever you're interviewing, they are looking at you from all these four lenses. And you have to make sure that you are gearing yourself. Generally, you're making yourself calibrated to not just the specialty of medicine, but your own specialty, let's say neurology. Plus, you're also making sure that you're looking like a fit to them within that program, like whether you would work there well or not. And we'll talk about how that works. Second, so this is the ESEM model and what kind of describes in your application what, let's say, experiences are, attributes and competencies are. For example, experiences, your clinical rotations. Have you been across the US? Have you done clinical rotations? I did a clinical rotation in Brazil. So I was asked about it all the time that, hey, did you learn anything? I was like, yes, I learned Portuguese. So that kind of showed an attribute of me, which is I'm very intellectually curious and I love learning. That's my fun. Other ways to assess experiences is during the interview, your personal statement reflects that. What are the research projects and publications you've taken? Is your research international, national, local leadership positions? What are the leadership positions you've had? Because generally what we find is the higher level the leadership position, the more adaptive to diversity that person is. Because let's say if you look at a program and they have multiple residents from, let's say, the continent of Africa, India, Pakistan. Now they have worked with a lot of these people and are probably acclimatized to that culture. So that's telling me something about you. Community service and volunteer work. As we discussed, all of this is telling a story. Attributes. So this is your resilience, adaptability, empathy, cultural awareness, and this comes out through the rest of your application and during the interview. And lastly, competencies, which again will be looked at very closely during the selection process via your PS and other parts, even your letters of recommendations. are telling the story of attributes and competencies. Okay. Next is the 6 core competencies. So if EACM is the model that gets you to become a doctor through the med school, 6 core competency is the model that takes a doctor and makes them become a specialist through the residency training process. And this is the model that they use to evaluate not just like medical students. This is the second layer model, but also residents. That's the added layer of complexity that they use. This is the second X model. The first thing that they look at is patient care. The first core competencies. This is, does your application or your personal statement, does it reflect that you can provide compassionate, appropriate, and effective care, which is geared towards and cost effective towards the patient. And this is, again, your letters of recommendation and so much shows the patient care aspect. Second is medical knowledge. This is your understanding of the evolving biomedical, clinical, and social behavioral sciences application to that patient care. An example I can give you is, for example, let's say in schizophrenia. Currently, we have a first episode psychosis clinic where if, let's say, somebody gets psychosis before the age of 18, there's a whole model called first episode psychosis model, which is evolving. If I can show in my personal statement or my other parts of my application that I'm aware of this new research, that using the first episode model for psychosis can prevent schizophrenia and make it less worse, improve prognosis later on. That could be amazing for me because that shows I am understanding the evolving medical literature, that this is a new model that's being used all over the world. First episode psychosis, you treat the psychosis the first time and make it very intensive. You also provide therapy, which is a part of the first episode psychosis model, and also group therapy, plus family therapy, plus medication. What that does is it helps the patient get better, number one, and prevents future episodes of psychosis. And that was actually in my application. And that's what I was asked about because this was coming up. This was a huge thing in psychiatry. And I showed, hey, look at this. I know that. So that's showing that I am able to evolve with the medical knowledge that's coming up. And that's very important. Third is practice-based learning. This is investigating and evaluating patient care practices, appraising and assimilating scientific evidence, and continuously improving patient care. So in simple words, what does this mean? If you have heard of quality improvement projects, this is the PDSA cycles: practice, do, study, act. An example of this is, let's say, again, I'm giving the example of ECG. So let's say if we were to do a screening ECG in a population, let's leave ECG, let's use mammography. A model is, let's say, a new hypothesis is that women are developing breast cancer at the age of 30 now, all of a sudden because of some environmental issues. And because of that, we might need to test out a new model where we are doing screening mammography at the age of 30 instead of 40, which is the UPTSF current guideline. So if that is the new hypothesis, now I have to plan around it. I have to do that protocol and I have to study it and see how effective that is compared to the old protocol. So the new protocol versus the old protocol. That is basically PDSA cycle. And then I have to implement it and see what the response is. If it's a good response, then I need to take it to a publication and create a whole US-wide system on it. That's practice-based learning and improvement. I'm applying the concepts that I have, my understanding of medical knowledge, and I'm developing a whole process, and I'm learning from that using feedback that the patients give me and the feedback I get through maybe imaging scans and whatnot, and I'm implementing that and improving on that, iterating and reiterating. Next is interpersonal and communication skills. So one of the reasons that you and I are right now on this call is because I do something with my communication skills that maybe some other people can't. And just having the interpersonal and communication skills and knowing how to generalize my communication and make it understandable and dumbing down that knowledge even is one of the reasons you're here, because I can talk about very complex topics in simple terms and clarify on that. That is an example with interpersonal and communication skills. Another example I can give you is I want to ask you, like, if you follow somebody on social media or other parts, why do you do that? Why are some people more interesting than others? We'll talk about this, a model called PCM that explains this. But why are some people more interesting? Why can you listen to some people for so long and they don't offend you? Then there are some people who they just start talking and they just bite your ear off and you don't want to listen to them and you want to punch them in the face. Why is that? That's because of interpersonal and communication skills. This is huge in terms of liability in America. If you don't have good interpersonal and communication skills, no matter where you are in terms of your step scores, you are going to get a law case against the hospital and drown yourself and the whole career of you have, plus the hospital, and they don't want that. And that's why interpersonal and communication skills is massive. Second reason it is massive is because of teamwork. An example I can give you is there's a lot of residents right now in America who are on remediation, probation, because they just don't know how to talk to their peers, and they can come off as brush off as very aggressive, or they can come off as very arrogant, even though they might not be, right? While there are the same people that are like the same kind of level of residents, they just know how to frame things in a way that makes them non-aggressive. It's the same point, but it's how it's framed that prevents them from getting into remediation or probation and causes them to go up the hierarchy and graduate. So it's huge in terms of teamwork. Here you have one person who doesn't know how to communicate, and they're going to take away if you play Jenga, so you pull out one block and you don't know how to communicate, the whole thing falls and it's chaos. Then you have another person who just knows how to put it all together, the Jenga together, and just keep building on. That's the kind of person they're looking for, is because that takes less headache and that takes hospital organizations further. Then is professionalism. This is you committing to carrying out professional responsibilities, adherence to ethical principles, and sensitivity to diverse patients. One of the reasons, again, this is important in medicine is, of course, you have to be there for the patient. You're a force for the good. But again, if you're unprofessional, that can lead you to have law cases if it comes down to money for the hospital. And that is why it's one of the most important reasons. Last is systems-based practices. This is your awareness and responsive to the larger systems of healthcare and showing quality improvement and resource management skills. An example I can give you is in America. Now we have this thing called urgent care. If you are familiar with what an emergency department is, and if you're familiar with hospitals and outpatient, these are systems. Urgent care is a new system where, for example, emergency medicine or ED department takes a lot of time. If I want to go to the ED, I go there. It takes 24 hours to be seen. Urgent care is a new model where you can set these up, like any organization can set these up. So many of them in any city or state or whatever they want. And generally, it's geared towards helping people who have milder illnesses and they're clogging up the ED. So you will have many patients who just have a cough and they go to the ED, and they're preventing the patient who has appendicitis from getting treatment. So a milder patient is causing issues, and triaging for patients who have severe issues, and that's causing problems in the ED. So the way they fixed that was creating urgent care, where they shuttle these patients who have milder issues. They don't need the ED, and they send them to urgent care. It's cheaper also, and it's a better system for them. And that opens up slots in the decreases wait time in the ED for more severe patients who need that care. That's an example of systems-based practices, using systems, your understandings of systems, and developing them further. That's the leaders that they need. Okay. So these are the 6 core competencies you are being evaluated on in terms of your thinking as a resident, and also whenever they're interviewing you, looking at your personal statement apart from the ESEM, the model that we talked about. Last is, let's talk about, so these are again, your patient care. Examples of how to demonstrate your patient care. Again, I'll talk about how to create your personal statement too. But examples of demonstrating that in your application that I think you can take away from is using, again, show, don't tell. Don't say that, hey, I know how to deliver compassionate patient care. Nobody's going to trust you. If you say, I have a lot of medical knowledge, people are not going to trust you. What they are going to trust is the experiences, concrete experiences that you mentioned in your CV or a personal statement, that kind of create the inception, that put the idea in their mind that, hey, this person is actually compassionate or knows things. Example is, let's say, again, I'm knowing the first episode psychosis model and using that, showing that I have the understanding, and I've created a similar model in India, showed them that I understand this, rather than saying that I know systems-based practices or I know PBLI, practice-based learning and improvement. An example of doing this is for patient care. Let's say I am compassionate. During my rotation, I established a care plan for an elderly patient with dementia by involving her family in the decisions. That's an example of show and not telling that I'm compassionate. You're showing that you are compassionate using a concrete experiences without explicitly stating that. Second is I am knowledgeable, so medical knowledge. I applied my understanding of new hypertension guidelines to identify patients needing medication adjustment. That's an example. Communication skills, instead of saying I talk really well, I communicate really well. I developed a system for clear handoffs that was used by our team after reducing overnight call questions by 30%. So you created a new communication model. There are models that nurses use. If you come to America, that decrease all the miscommunication by 30 to 50%. So you created a model that shows that you have good communication skills. You know how to concise the communication down, reduce the fluff, and only keep what's relevant. This is shown in your CV, your personal statement, and interviews. Very important. Lastly is a model. This is the third model. This is called as the process communication model. The reason communication is important, again, I'm stating, is not just that you want to give proper care to the patient, which is beyond just your medical knowledge. It's basically making the patient agree to your recommendations, stick to those recommendations, and not creating undue fights with the patient. That is about communication. How do you calmly talk to the patient? If there's an argument, how do you diffuse the argument? That's one part. Second is, if there's fights in the residency, or if there's fights in the hospital, how do you act as a mutual arbitrator or a mutual communicator who can resolve those fights rather than getting into fights and creating issues with them? The model that they use is called as a process communication model. There are multiple aspects to it, but I'm going to go just on the cliff notes on how this works. Originally, this model was developed by NASA. It was in 40 years of research. And the question they were asking is, why are some people just better communicators than others? What is happening there? Why are some people, they have this X factor or charisma that we want to listen to them? They're able to diffuse arguments. They're able to not offend people, and they can get their points across. And why does that lead to so much success? And the model they came out with was called as the PCM model. This was developed by a psychologist in NASA. Okay. So basically what the PCM model says is that there are 6 types of people that you will see. The first kind of person is the person who thinks logically. These are people who are more logical. They don't have as many as emotions. Second person is the person who's more reflective. These are the people who ask philosophical questions. They're the people who love quotes, and they are very deep thinkers. They have very deep rooted values. They're different from logical thinkers, where logical thinkers are only thinking by logic. These people have more of a value-based system. Third is feelings. These people who have more feelings are the people who communicate through emotions and not just logic. These are people who are more emotionally persuaded than other people. They're different. Fourth is people who are action-oriented. They don't care about logic. They don't care about values. They don't care about feelings. They just love acting out. And that's a good thing and a bad thing in many ways. But these people want more action-oriented tips rather than you taking them through the process of thinking very logically or deeply, or making them reflect or feel. Lastly, so the last 2 here that you will see is there are people who are more opinionated, and then people who are funny. Some people, if you look at the second last image, they're more oriented towards the fun of things. They love curiosity. They love novelty. And these are people who are always exploring, and they want something fun. So you have to tell them something fun to communicate with them and make sure that the communication is happening. Lastly are people who are very opinion oriented, and they are very much based upon opinions rather than, I'll clarify on these models. They can be confusing, and we'll talk about how this kind of works as well. But they're very opinionated, and you have to talk to them in a very opinion oriented. So just breaking it down. So the thinker here, personality type, a lot of you might be thinkers, and you care more about logic and thoughts rather than emotions or whatnot. That's what you care about. And the strengths here are you're logical, you're responsible, you're organized, and you need somebody to communicate with that undertone in that communication. If I give you emotions or if I put too much action, you don't care. You don't want to listen to me. You want something that's more logical. Use that logic to persuade me rather than actions. Persister is somebody, again, these are people who care more about values, and they're very deep thinkers. They're very much like philosophers. These are our Stoics. These are people who are Buddhas or whatnot. They are these value-oriented people. They don't care about logic, but more about deeper philosophies of life rather than just a superficial logic. If you give them more emotions or just logic, they're not persuaded. Harmonizers are people who care about emotions. They're very compassionate. They don't care about logic as much. They don't care about opinions or values as much. They care more about the emotional undertone, how you're talking to them. Is there aggression in your tone? And they're turned off by aggression. If there's compassion in your tone, they like that. So these are people who are more emotional in nature. Then there are people who are imaginers. These are people who are they think in pictures, and they always want more pictorial content, which means you have to get them to visualize things. They don't understand communication as much. They like show, not tell. Lastly, then we talk about our promoters and the funny people. So these are the rebels. So rebels are the people who are comedians. They love making fun of people. They love fun. They love novelty. And we enjoy them. They enjoy us. But they don't care about logic as much, or emotions as much, or choral content as much, or values as much. But they love fun. You need to get comedy in. Lastly is promoters. These are people who love action. If you don't give them action or some actionable tip, they don't want to talk to you. And these are the 6 types of people. The reason I bring it out is even though there are 6 types of people that I've said that exist in terms of communication and how you need to adapt your communication, we all have these 6 in us in different quantities. So if you look at this model, this is through a study where they evaluated the current population and saw how many people are among these 6 different categories. So you would see that in this, people who are more emotionally oriented are 30% of the population. So if you look at YouTube or Instagram or just like everyday life, many people don't care about logic. Many people don't care about, like most of the people don't care about these things. Most people care about how you make them feel. And that's what they want. 30% of the population is feeling oriented and they want more emotional things, compassion rather than just action or thoughts. Then they looked at the rest of the population. About 25% of the population is logical. They are more logic oriented. They don't care about what the compassion is. They just want somebody who's logical and give them the logical argument. So that's 25%. Then fun is 20%. These people, so 20% of the population is just more fun oriented. They don't care about other things, but they want fun. They don't care about logic. They don't care about facts, feelings. They just want fun, comedy. Then you have people who are value oriented. These are just 10% of the population. Imagination oriented is 10% and action oriented is 5%. The reason again I bring out this model is even though our population has different subsets of these people, 30% and 25%, even within us, there is some level of all these components in the PCM that appeal to us. So for example, if somebody is able to combine all these 6 components and communicate, they appeal more to us than somebody who just is more factually oriented. Example is if you look at your social media feeds or if you look at any medical person you follow, why do you follow them? Is it just because they're talking about logical facts, or is it also because they are able to make you imagine things that other people just can't? Think in pictures that other people can't. They're able to evoke emotions. They're able to show some core philosophy to you that kind of underroots all the logic that they're showing you. There is some element of fun, comedy with them, or action. They're giving you actionable tips. So the more you can combine these different aspects of communication, these 6 aspects of communication, the more effective of a communicator you become. If you look at the biggest communicators in the world, like Bill Clinton or people in other Columbia or whatever, all these big psychologists, they are using this model and they're orienting their communication like me right now as we are talking. I showed you data where I showed you where the personal statements stands at based upon a survey. And a lot of you were logical and maybe a subpart of you that's logical was like, okay, that's good data. I really like it. A lot of you are also like, I'm giving you actionable tips that you're learning all of this. And here's how you're going to apply it, which we'll talk about later on as well. But that appeals to you. There's some element of fun with the hand gestures I'm making or some of the jokes that might come later on that will appeal to all of you. There's a deep core philosophy that I follow in my life. My core purpose is transformation, unity, and contribution. These are my 3 core purposes that appeals to a lot of people. And that's why they want to engage with me. And lastly, I'm able to talk about things where I'm able to show you things, imagine things, rather than just tell you things. And that's why you maybe like me or not as a communicator. But generally what you want to have in your application is an amalgam of all these 6 because your program directors are similar. They might be more fun oriented. You have a fun oriented program, then there's more factually oriented program director. You want to appeal to all of them using your whole application. And that's where PCM comes in. And we'll talk about how do you combine all these in your application, your personal statements and your interviews. So your personal statement, lastly, as I showed you the data, is your opportunity to stand out. Let me give you an example and I'll go back to this and what is actually a personal statement. So let me show you a window for this. Let's do a whole window and let me show you generic book cover. This is just something that came into my mind. So I want to show you how important the book cover is. So let's compare this book cover. Both of them. So if you look at the Prejudice book cover, here that you can see that I'm showing here, one on the left and one on the right. If you are going to put that into an airport and you want people to buy them, I just wanted to comment, if there is a comment box, which one would you buy? Would it be the left one, which is brownish? Would it be the right one? Which one would you buy? Just briefly enter this. So what I'm telling you is, like it or not, we are told that you don't judge a book by its cover. The truth is we do judge books by the cover. And psychology, like if you look at psychology research, it shows us that our opinion of a person is decided in the first 5 seconds of meeting them. So our first impression decides 80% of our opinion of that person. That's what studies show. And this is the same thing. Both have the same content, same application, but it's just the way it is framed. And what is in the first cover, the personal statement is the analogy here, is how do you put together the application into a narrative story, into this beautiful story that makes them want to read the rest of your application and interview you. If it is not the right one, and if it's the left one, if it doesn't have the core competencies, if it doesn't have the ESEM appeal, if it doesn't have that some level of process communication model, you're getting the left one. The right one is what you want to buy. And so is that what program directors want to buy. In the analogy here is the airport is the residence selection process. And the book here is your application, what you have done. And the cover here is the personal statement. So going back to what the personal statement is, your personal statement is your opportunity to stand out. It's your book cover. It is your ability to go beyond the scores, go beyond the content and make them want to read the rest of your application. It is an opportunity for you to tell them your story. What are your values, your motivations? Show your 6 core competencies beyond what can be shown in your residency application. Show the program fit. For example, if you look at me, I'm into psychiatry. So if I'm very research oriented, I am not aesthetically oriented. I'm very academically oriented as well. So I love to teach. I love to do research. I'm not that much into patient care. I like patient care, but I'm more driven by academics and teaching and other services. That's basically me. And a lot of programs are not going to like it. In New York, or let's say we take some community program, they are going to hate me. Even though I have a 270, I have the best application. They're going to be like, this guy is going to be unhappy here because we don't teach as much. We don't even have a medical school. We even do research. So we are not going to like him. He's not going to like us. He's going to leave the program. That's what they think. But if you look at me and let's say I apply to Columbia, all of a sudden, Columbia might like me because all of a sudden they see I love teaching. Columbia has a teaching hospital. It has a medical school. I can teach. Secondly, they're going to like that I do research, which is what Columbia is known for. It's known for research. So I'm a better program. And that's kind of what I want to gear towards, is looking at where I am, what my interests are, who I am, what my application is, and then creating a personal statement that's oriented to the type of programs that you want to apply to. There are 3 types of programs we will talk about later. There's academic, there's community, and then there's hospital-based, university affiliated. You want to gear your personal statement to one of these and not all of them. And we'll talk about how to do that. And it should answer key questions. What drives you? The quote that I've heard, and I think that really stuck with me, is that you don't have to be inspirational. You don't have to be somebody who, is an inspiration sensation. All you have to be is inspired, you to get other people to be inspired by you. So you don't have to be inspirational. You don't have to do crazy shit. What you have to do is just be inspired about life for other people to be inspired by you. That is what the drive is. If you're inspired, they are inspired by you and they want to interview you. And that's the kind of person who's going to end up doing a good residency, not cause issues, and think beyond themselves because they're inspired by something bigger than themselves. And it should also answer key questions. What kind of physician you want to be? We'll talk about how we'll do that later on. But for example, I want to be more academic, research oriented. That's where I want to go, right? Because that's what I enjoy. I don't honestly like clinical care as much. And I generally was blunt during my whole personal statement regarding that. And I actually got good programs where I was a good fit because of that. So another quote that I read is, you have to offend a few to attract the many. So in a society where if you are too generalized, people are just going to like you. They're not going to love you. The way to make people love you is be polarizing. You have to take a side. And when you don't take any side, you're in the middle. You're just like, but when you take a side, you stand for your values. You know who you are. Now you're going to piss off some people because they don't like you. They don't like who you are. But then a lot of people on this side A, right, they're going to love you because of your polarizability, who you are, and you are on their side. So we want to do the same thing here with your personal statement, is make it very personalized, very geared, so that it's not generally applicable. We want to offend a few programs. So they are like, hey, he's not a good fit, but we want to make other programs love you rather than all programs just like you and not then send an interview. Okay. How do we do this? We are going to jump into a live demo where one of you is going to jump in with us and we are going to do the whole process. So the way we do this is, number one, we get on a one-to-one call with you where we brainstorm with you, ask you questions, leading questions to figure out what your signature 2 to 3 strengths are. An example for me, my signature strengths are agency. I can take anything you give me from 0 to 100 autonomously. You don't need to tell me how to do it. I learn on the go. That's me. Agency. That's a signature strength that other people might not have. Second thing that I have is that I'm able to combine multiple levels of knowledge from, let's say, conversational theory, medicine, and we're able to blend them together in a way that other people cannot. So I'm very combinationally driven. That's a signature strength that I can combine different aspects that other people cannot. And that differentiates me and that makes me stand out. So we're going to identify your core values and strengths. So you don't become a forgettable generic book. You become a book cover. You have that book cover which stands out, makes people in the airport be like, take notice. Who is this person? Sorry, whose book is this? I want to read this book. That's what we got to make you. Second is just taking those core strengths and crafting a hook, and then taking that and then crafting a narrative around that core strengths that we have figured out to make you sellable, make them want to read your book. And lastly, we want to tailor you. Again, we want to offend a few programs, but we want to tailor a lot of programs. And the only way to do that is offend a few programs, polarizability, like we talked about. And the way we do that is make a more general kind of tailoring, which is looking at the 3 types of programs and tailoring your PS to that. And then we can do some specific signal specific tailoring if needed. So that's kind of what we do. I hope you got the guide that we shared. So basically, we are going to take you through the process. Paragraph 1 in your personal statement will be just the hook, where we are not taking any cliches that other people will repeat, but where we will take a specific interaction, a concrete interaction, because we want them to imagine things. So a specific patient interaction where you did something where I can imagine it. Because remember, imaginability is part of the PCM model. People like, show, don't tell. That's what you got to do. So an example is not saying that since childhood, I wanted to be a doctor. It is going to be like during a night shift, I discovered my childhood friend unconscious in the ED. And you can comment as well, which one do you like? Since childhood, I wanted to be a doctor, or is it more like during a night shift, I discovered my childhood friend unconscious in the ED? Because 2 is showing urgency. Is what the hell is happening? Unpredictability. So what we want to do with the perfect hook is you want to use a specific patient interaction, right? In the first, I can't imagine things. In the second, when you say concretely what happened, oh my God, what is happening next? So we want to use a concrete example that shifted your worldview. You want to use some kind of specific failure if you want to cover a red flag. It's part of your growth. A striking quote from your mentor. I'll show you my PS as well that I edited on. What kind of quotes I used. You should use quotes because we want to appeal to the value aspects of people. Deep core philosophies. A cultural story that shaped your values, a personal metaphor or visual memory. An example is my son called me his hero in front of his class. I can imagine it. I can't imagine my grandmother's illness made me want to be a physician. I don't know what that illness is. Pressing flowers into a glass in a remote Sudanese village was how I learned to dream. Makes me intrigued, makes me want to read more. Doctors are heroes and I wanted to be one. Doesn't make me want to read more. It's overused, lacks uniqueness, and doesn't. Paragraphs 2, after we have crafted your hook, we want to make them read that. Again, metaphorically speaking, if your personal statement is the front cover of the book, the hook is the front cover of the front cover. We want to make them, so that's how you pitch your story and how you make people tag along throughout the whole story, is you want to hook them throughout the different segments. And this applies to everything in the life. Even your personal statement has to have a hook for the hook, which is your personal statement. For it. So paragraph 2 and 3 is your journey and identity. If you remember the ESCM model, we talked about experiences. This is the experience aspect, which is your outer ring, what is width of your experiences and the depth of your experiences. You want to show that in your personal statement using your journey and identity. Here we'll explore what's your story, what do you value, what shaped you, what are you outside of medicine. And we're not just going to list experiences, we're going to connect them to who you are as a person. Because if you remember, values are important. People care about core philosophies. I value, for example, transformation. I love growth. I value contribution, giving back to people. And I love learning, transformation, learning, and unity. I love diversity. I love learning from different cultures. That's me. These 3 strands are me. So we want to build your own value system and show that to the program so they remember you. Another example I can give you is what we call as, let's test this out. Okay. This is a good test before I go further into it. And I apologize if I'm talking too fast because this is generally a longer presentation. So I wish I could have taken it slower, but we have a lot to cover. But I want to ask you a question. So when I say genius, I want you to write in the comments what comes to your mind first. Genius. Who comes to your mind? The biggest association when I say genius. Einstein. Okay. How many of you, when I said genius, had that association of Einstein? This is what we call as personal branding. This is what we call as being known for just one word. That's how you separate yourself in the endless stream of what's the application tool is. An example is if they look at my application, they should say agency, and agency should evoke Manik. Genius evokes Einstein, not Manik. Genius evokes Einstein. Agency should evoke Manik. I want to be known for agency. If I say peace, what comes to your mind? Just who comes to your mind if I say peace? Okay, Dove. Anyone else? Okay, I like that. Okay. So a lot of you would associate peace with Gandhi because that's the key. We have been trained for that. Gandhi is known for one thing. That's the same thing we want to do for you is how can we take your story and they say the same thing. They're like, oh, who was that applicant who had maybe that educational YouTube channel? Manik. That's what we want. You want the same Nelson Mandela. So you want that one key word associated with you. For me, that's agency. For me, that's creativity. Who was that creative applicant who made videos? Who is this applicant who is more of a teacher? Manik. That's the same thing we want to do with you. So here we are bringing out the 4-pillar strategy, which is first of all, looking at your upbringing. If you're an immigrant, you're a first-gen American, which is you grew up, your parents were immigrants and you grew up in America. Was it a military family, a rural upbringing? Were your parents doctors? Second is interest. What are you really interested in? Because that shows us your strengths. For example, if I'm interested in content creation, my strengths actually correlate with that content creation interest because I'm actually good at content creation. So generally, if you look at passion and strengths, anything you're passionate about, there is some natural strength there that other people might not have. For me, that is agency. For me, the strength is creativity that other people might lack a bit. And because of that, I'm more interested and that becomes a passion. Because if I'm good at content creation, if I am naturally talented at it, I'm going to get positive feedback from society. They're going to reward me positively for that. Hey, thanks for helping me. I'm going to get views. I'm going to get other people to come up on these webinars because these are talents. So passion and talents are actually correlated with each other. And that's what we want to show is what are you passionate about? Because that shows me what are you strong at as well. Is a research, mentorship, underserved medical health, underserved mental health, or underserved areas, public health, skills. What do you like? Collaboration, teaching, resilience, problem solving. We don't want you to be known for everything. We want you to be known for one or two things. That's it. Aspirations. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? So these are the things that we need to craft your journey and make them think about genius, Einstein. For you, it could be that person who danced really well or that person who just knows how to do this X thing so well. That's what we want to imprint in their mind. Okay. Paragraph 4 is your strengths, signatures, and strengths, skills, and signature qualities. So apart from what you value, your journey, your identity, what has that led you to develop with your strengths? An example for me is my diverse experiences has made me value unity, and that unity combines with me being able to genetically create content and serve the entire globe and not just maybe the Indian subcontinent. And that's why you are here from different countries is because you feel that I can resonate from whatever country you are. I don't really differentiate. So that's basically a strength, your core personal quality and skills. So let me differentiate your strengths versus skills before I go into that. Strengths are basically your inner qualities that other people have a hard time doing. It's even if they try to learn it, it's hard for them to learn, but you are more naturally oriented towards it. For me, again, content creation, other people that might not be similar. For me, research might be a strength in some ways. Other people, it might not be. For you, it might be critical skills. For me, critical skills are harder. And that's why maybe I don't like it as much as teaching. Teaching is a strength. For other people, it might be clinical skills. So strengths are natural born talents that you want to show. And these are things that you are naturally good at. And because you're naturally good at, if you improve in these strengths, you are faster. Your curve to improvement is exponential, not linear. Because you're talented at it. That's what matters. And you will have a faster growth curve. If it's just a skill, and let's say I'm trying clinical skills, I don't like patient interaction as much. And if I don't like it, no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to get good at it. It's an example of if you take a goldfish and you try to make it climb a tree, the goldfish is going to give up. No matter what you do, goldfish is going to hate it and it's going to give up and it's not going to evolve. That's me basically trying to do patient care more and more. Versus if you take the goldfish and put it in the ocean, that ocean, like it will swim beautifully and it will get better at it as it swims. That is me doing research. That is me doing academics. And that's why I'm more passionate about it because if I can swim, I love it. It's fun. But if you put me on the tree, I'm the goldfish. I hate it. So there's a big correlation between passion, what you like, and your strengths. And that's kind of what we want to bring out is what are your natural born talents and not just the skill sets that were given to you. And that's what programs care the most about. This is called a strength-based economies in America. Last paragraph is if all the other paragraphs tell me a story about who you are and why you are so great as an applicant. Now, why us? So all the previous paragraphs, paragraph 3, paragraph 4 is answering the why you, but last paragraph is why us together. So this is why the specialty resonates with you on a deeper level. What are you uniquely bringing to the program and how can we uniquely help you? So if I want research and I'm applying to Columbia, that's a good why us. And that shows it's coherent. But if let's say I hate patient care and all of a sudden you put me into some hospital in Brooklyn, that is not a good why us. They're like, hey, we love patient care. I'm like, hey, I hate patient care and I love research. They're like, we can't offer research. So you need to know how to bridge those together. So key phrases to consider here is I'm drawn to the intellectual challenge of internal medicine. If you are somebody who's interested in that specialty, what excites me most is the intersection of surgery and innovation. If you're interested in that specialty, I hope to serve underserved populations. If it's a program in underserved areas, it's a rural program or whatnot. So the step-by-step process we're going to take you through right now, and we are going to apply it because for all of you who love application, like we'll go to the TCM model. So there are people who love action. We're going to include action here and walking the talk. That's what I love doing is first of all, we're going to put one of you on a demo call. You can volunteer and we're going to put you on a 30-minute call. I want everyone to watch. We have sent you one of those calls as well, where we're going to just ask you a few prompts, questions, ask you leading questions and get your signature strengths. If Einstein's genius, who are you that we can use that word to make it your poster brand or whoever you are? That's the selecting 3 or 4 things. Now using these signature qualities, we are going to take a hook. That's the number 1 hook that we're going to craft. And then we are going to take that hook and build the journey, the strengths, and then the fit. So the first 1 to 3 are why you, what's the special in you. And then the last is why us. So that's the whole process we take is we sit on a call with you and we bring out those moments where we're bringing out the signature qualities. And then we put that into a proper narrative where it flows really well together. So for that, we'll do that in the live demo. And I've provided you the brainstorming worksheets. And I think from my friends, he's here, Tanish, he'll do it. Before we do that,
So because of some emergency situation, Dr. Tanish is not available to do that. You will be doing the brainstorming.
Yeah, so I'll be doing that. That's fine. That's okay. Yeah.
We have also selected Dr. Muhammad Tariq Shah through a lottery system among all the students. So he is the volunteer.
Okay, we'll start. Just a few things. And again, I'll send you this presentation as well in order for you to just review it because I think it's a very helpful presentation. So you can go in, but with just a few final tips for success in terms of your personal statement is the length should be at least like make it 1 page, don't make it more than a page. Language should be clear, simple, professional, and evocative. What do I mean by evocative or figurative language? Figurative language is the most advanced level of communication where we are making people imagine things. An example I can give you is let's say if you write in your personal statement, I want to be into internal medicine. I want to be an internal medicine doctor because I'm intrigued by the depth and the width of information that, and the cases and medical cases that internal medicine has to offer. Just consider that's number 1. I want you to rate them for me. Number 2 is, hey, I want to apply to internal medicine because internal medicine is like a galaxy of stars to me. And when I think about the galaxy of stars, there's just so many stars. It's so nebulous, so many planets, just like the diseases. And it just intrigues me. And I feel like I can get lost in it. And there's no end to it, just like a galaxy. And it just keeps growing, just like the universe. Let me ask you, what was more memorable? Was it number 1 or number 2? Just rate it in the comments. The reason the second one was memorable, I want you to do the same. Use metaphors and analogies is because we humans evolutionarily are geared towards remembering visual content that tickles our imagination. That's what we care about. Some of the best communicators, what they do is they use these metaphors, these analogies like I'm using, the galaxy of stars for what internal medicine is to me, that they use. And that's why they have that appeal is because we remember that. You're going to forget the first one where I said that, hey, I like internal medicine because of the width and the depth of the cases. You're going to forget that. The second one, you're not going to forget because it's etched into your mind. It's an evolutionary thing. The reason it works this way is because if you look at it, language is a new phenomenon. It came back 2000, 3000 years ago proper. Image-based learning or image-based communication, or eyes, have been around for millions of years in evolution. And because of that, we are geared towards our language for remembering information, language for communication is visual. And we call this evocative or figurative language. So whenever you're giving interview answers, whenever you are crafting your application, I want you to make your responses more like where you're using metaphors, you're using analogies to make them imagine things that they can't forget. Number one, everyone's going to forget. Lastly, again, be authentic, sound like yourself, and get a lot of feedback. Try to avoid any AI written text. AI, I talk about how to use AI for personal statements as well. That is allowed brainstorming. This is the latest guideline that came out, but you're not allowed to use AI in the final version of your PS, and it will actually turn off a lot of PDs, but you can use it for brainstorming. And again, if possible, tailor the final paragraph for each program. We'll talk about how to do that as well. Okay. Yeah, let's put you on. Before we do that, Kaushik, are you recording this? Do you have a transcript live for this or no?
Yes, I do have a transcript. We will get particular transcript for this.
Okay, not later, we'll get it
No.
live.
We did it now. Yes.
That's what I need. So I'm going to just pay attention how we do this, because you can replicate the same process at home to achieve your PS in less than a day. That's how fast the process is. And we have been doing this for the last 2 years. This process has been tested in multiple matches, and it has given us good results, which a lot of our students will talk about later on, who have matched and who are currently going through the process and how it worked out for them. Nothing to be worried about how this process works. It's already been tested, and we'll give you a showcase of how it works. And we'll give you all the materials if you want to do the same thing at home. And my promise is you're going to be done with your PS in a day. Your first draft. You wouldn't need to edit it, and we'll talk about how to do that. All right, Mohammed. So let's do this. So let's start the process. Okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Where are you from?
I'm basically from Pakistan. I'm currently working in Ireland. I'm a second-year family medicine resident here, but I'm pursuing general surgery in the US. And
You're
really appreciate your opportunity to go through the PS with me.
No worries. Yeah, thank you so much for coming up. I love that. So you're pursuing neurosurgery?
General surgery.
Neurosurgery. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, like we'll talk about, if you want to stay at the end, like how you can personalize your application more towards general surgery. But let me load up my presentation. Can you see the presentation here?
Yes, I can see that. Yeah.
Okay, everyone can see it? Okay. All right, guys. So just pay attention how we go through this. We have already given you this guide. So I'm going to talk to Mohammed for 30 minutes. It might take longer for a lot of people, and that's okay. But we are going to ask a few questions to get to all the 5 paragraphs we were talking about. That's where this has been developed from, is if you answer these questions, like discovery, background, self-insight, specialty fit, that helps us create your personal statement way faster, and it speeds up the process rather than going to a blank page and thinking about how am I going to write. So we're going to use a framework that's been tested. If you go search on the internet, everyone talks about this framework. Columbia, everyone uses the same framework, and that's how we. So I'm going to ask him a few questions to discover the hook, then his background, what are the self-insights, what is the specialty fit, and how it works with them. And then we'll create the PS together in less than an hour. Mohammed, let's first start with this. Do you have your CV with you? And if you have your letters of recommendations, or do you have the rest of your application materials?
Yeah, I do not have the letters of recommendation because they will
That's
be.
fine. You have your CV. So before we start, just tell me a bit about you. So you're from Pakistan. You said you're from Pakistan. You moved to Ireland. What caused you to move to Ireland?
So I graduated in 2018 from Ayub Medical College in Pakistan. I did a year of intern year in the same hospital. I did almost 3 years of postgraduate experience mixed in general surgery, anesthesiology, and emergency medicine in Pakistan. At that time, I wanted to pursue Western training to make it like clear and short. So I had started the Irish Medical Council registration as well as the USMLEs. For Pakistan, we just have to do the OET, and we get registration over 8 to 10 months in Ireland. So I got that, and that kind of helped me a lot with my financing my journey for the US. So while I was doing general surgery training in Pakistan,
What I'm getting is you're self-funding your entire journey.
Yeah.
Congratulations. So that must mean you're very driven.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
It's shown in the examples, like you basically self-funded your entire journey going from Pakistan, and you're still coming to the US. And not only that, you are repeating the whole process. I did USMLE and it tired me out, and I was like, I'm never going to do it again. And here you are, like with grit. There's so much grit that is there, persistence. So
Thanks.
I'm already getting some signature qualities here, like persistence. We'll talk about how to refine them further, but okay, that's one. Okay, let's see.
Perfect. So this is my third year in Ireland now. And after graduation, I've done 3 years of surgical training and non-training jobs. But now I'm in a family medicine residency here. It's 4 years, while general surgery here is 8 years. Getting on a general surgical training scheme is extremely competitive because for general surgery, there are usually like 14 to 15 seats for the whole country. And they only take 80 to 100 surgical trainees, where they call core surgical trainees, but then they distribute them among all specialties. And general surgery is like 14, 15. You have to work on your application for a while before you get in. So I'm currently graduating in a few months from a surgical master's. I've been doing surgical courses in endoscopy and laparoscopy. I have been presenting in national conferences and doing some surgical research. So I'm trying to tailor my application more towards general surgery in the US because I will likely not get it here anytime soon. It can take a few years before I get it. And US was the first choice anyway. So
Well, I'm really inspired by your journey. It seems to have a lot of persistence and grit. That's kind of what
Thank
I
you.
get. So tell me, like, you love general surgery so much. You've been through the hassle of training in family medicine, self-funding yourself. You have not given up, right? A lot of people would given up. Tell me about what is general surgery. Tell me about a moment in general surgery like that changed you. Like, why is this surgery thing so important?
yeah, there are actually so many moments and I never get tired of it, to be honest.
How the most concrete moment, like something that you can visually imagine,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
something that is emotional to you,
Yeah.
that changed your core philosophy as a person, and that's the biggest reason you're here. The first thing that comes to you.
The first reason is seeing your hard work take effect. A patient comes in with some usually anatomical abnormality. You can see it. You can see it through scans or in person. You repair it, and in a few days, the patient walks back home most of the time. So that was the first thing that comes to my mind. I can remember cases like this. So we had an elderly lady, septic.
Give me a case that really is emotionally close to you. And when you think about it, so a way to think about this is, what is the most emotionally vibrant and also visually vibrant thing that you can still remember? It's still there with you.
Yeah.
And give me a specific concrete example. I don't want that abstract. I want the exact moment.
Example. Yeah. So we had an elderly lady in her 70s, came in septic to the emergency department. She had something called stercoral colitis, advanced constipation causing colonic ischemia and causing peritonitis. She had cardiac arrest. She was resuscitated. She went to laparotomy and we cleared out her abdomen, did a stoma. She recovered from that, and that's really vivid. And I think a lot of people will not want to be in that life because of this case, but that attracts me because that's practically life-saving for that patient. That would be one of the cases which would resonate with me. Yeah. Another thing, like in terms of not a specific case, but a shift. So I had a few back-to-back shifts, and the way I felt in those shifts, I've never felt in like the family medicine rotations. So I had a night shift. The next day I had, of course, basic surgical training that I needed to attend for the whole day. I came back from that, slept for 2 hours. Then I went through the whole night shift again because it was like continuous nights. Then after that second night, I had the second day of the core surgical training which I did. And then I had a night after that. And like after the whole that 2.5 days, I was fully exhausted, but it was really rewarding that I could do those, and I haven't felt that kind of drive in other specialties.
Seems like it was like general surgery was like restorative sleep for you. That's what, like, even though you're exhausted, it seems though there was like some kind of a healing experience just going there and being a part of it. And despite not sleeping for days, wow, like what was going on during that?
I was on call for and it's usually so busy. So we see patients, admit patients, we go through surgery overnight and then hand over to the morning shift. But it was mostly the excitement of it kept me going. I could see that I'm helping patients. I could see the effort take place and produce results in terms of, when I compared that to another, say if I was just rounding, not doing anything, changing a medication to see to see that if it works maybe in a few weeks, that's kind of not not an environment where I would work really well, and a bit fast paced and seeing my kind of work produce some output. So that keeps going.
It looks like you like pressure.
Yes, I really like it, and depends if I have a good team also. I can understand my shortcomings, like kind of junior training now. So a lot of my responsibilities would have been shared at that time with a senior. So I also felt safe, but I also felt like I was learning. So it was a really supportive environment. And that's why I enjoyed it more.
So general surgery kind of makes you feel alive, kind of getting, and this is like a thrill. Like, for example, if you go on an adventure, that's kind of what it sounds like is, let's say you're doing scuba diving, or it can be exhausting if you, let's say, jump off a plane. It's scary, but you have fun. And that's kind of what it sounds like is it's a high stake situation. That's what you like. And there's pressure that you like. What that I like is while pressure can burst pipes, it can also make diamonds. So I really like pressure, like personally as a person, because I feel like it helps you grow. And that's where the transformation, the journey leads to that transformation and helping the patient as well. And that's the fun part. And many people won't do it, yet I will. Secondly, was there ever a time that a patient taught you something unexpected or shifted your worldview, or you made you like, hey, maybe I was wrong about that?
Yeah, I was on a palliative care rotation last year, and at first I had this idea that we as healthcare professionals, we give option to the patients and then they choose from those. And at that time, I didn't know that there are actually patients who just want to go home to die, to keep it really simple. And I was speaking with that patient, and I think I linked that in with patient autonomy. I had a community palliative care team, so we were safe in terms of patient symptoms. They would just tell us that we want to go home to die in the place where we have spent all our life, and that's how we want it all to end. And I think that was like a shock to me. I didn't know patients would say that. I always thought that they would think that the hospital is the best place to be at their end in their tough times. That was something that was really kind of shocking to me and really unexpected. That kind of stuck with.
Yeah, I think that makes me, wow. That's,
yeah.
What is a memory that still gives you goosebumps? If you still remember it, it could be in relation to medicine or not, could be in relation to any personal struggle, but you still think deeply about it and it's vibrant in you.
Yeah, I was thinking about a few cases which were kind of, they still give me goosebumps. So the first time when I was intern in the first month, I had a infective exacerbation of COPD. And I also had a patient who had a really small pulmonary reserve, and they had cardiac arrest, and the family was not aware of what CPR is. I was in the same ward. The attendants were really worried. That lady had a daughter who called her husband and saying, I don't know what's happening. They've just jumped onto the bed and are pressing on her chest, and I don't know what's happening. And that was a lot of things together. Like for me as a new doctor, about patient counseling, about letting them know what this is, to be prepared for similar situations, to make sure, discuss with the family whether or not you want to make the patient DNR. So all of those things came to me like at the same time. So that was a goosebump memory for me. A more positive one, we had a patient a couple of months ago. We did 90 minutes CPR on, who reverted, and he came back to the clinic in a few weeks. So that was a really fantastic, really rewarding. We did use Lucas, the automatic CPR machine, but everybody was there hands-on at all times, and that was really rewarding. A bit more grim, but a goosebumps memory I have was a young lady, 40s. She was a query antiphospholipid syndrome, so she was still under workup, but she had a lot of emboli, bowel ischemia, bowel surgeries, dependent on TPN. We kept changing her lines because she would get clots in all her major veins. She had blindness, she had leg amputation, so that was really distressing. She had a 17-year-old son, and the lady didn't want her son to see her like this, so that was really difficult, really goosebumps memory. So these are just for a few cases I want to share.
It looks like your tendency to be there for people when nobody else would be, or they would run away. And in those high stakes situations, is that like generally applicable in your life as well? Like where you tend to be in those situations? Because that's when nobody else would be there for them. Somebody's dying and the CPR, very high stakes, people will be scared. Do you find that is also the case in your life, or it doesn't have to be? But
yeah, I find it really fulfilling to me to support my family in these times. So I'm supporting my parents, my younger brother, a nephew in their education, and I feel really proud to do that, to be honest, because I come from a really underprivileged background. So I want to be there as much as I can. And I can understand sometimes I'll not be able, but I feel pride in that.
Wow, that's awesome. That's you're not only just supporting yourself, you're also supporting your family while having a great pursue this process. So that says a lot about you, your drive and your love for general surgery even. What was your upbringing like? You told me that like you grew up in Pakistan. Were your parents doctors? Who inspired you to be a doctor? Like how did you end up in medicine?
I ended up in medicine because I'm from a really small village and there would not be a lot of people who would be pursuing anything major. And growing up, being a doctor was this huge image in our mind. This person would come to your house or you would go to whenever you have any kind of discomfort. They would tell you what to do and you would do it. We have this kind of philosophy that in contrast to the West, where the patient would drive their care, in our society, usually you would look up to the doctor and say, what should I do? And they would do it. I kind of want to attain that role. Also, there weren't many options, to be honest. So this was one of the options that I had and I really liked it. So I went down this road. I'm the first doctor in my family and I was well supported by the family. And we have a co-family, huge house. All of us live together, really good support and no distractions compared to like now, kids growing up, a lot of distractions. I didn't have any distractions, so I could focus on studying and I got lucky.
Okay. And what was the biggest challenge you ever overcome? I know there'd be financial hardships and you've been able to support yourself and again, the pathway to the US has been more convoluted and maybe a traditional applicant. So you have to deal with that, the time that it takes and still here, it's not easy as you age to continue with it. So I can see those challenges. Anything else that you feel I should know as the biggest challenge you ever overcome? Specifically, if there's a concrete example, that helps more.
One concrete example would be changing like how and where I live. So as I said, I was from a small rural area in Pakistan. Different people, different social environment, different language, coming here to Ireland and making new friends here, living in shared places with other people. And I've been to the US for 4 different rotations now, getting insight to how things are there. Like a concrete example in this aspect would be you are supposed to be more bold, outgoing and extroverted in Western society compared to being more soft, more more agreeing to everything in our culture. So I think that's a bit coming out of your shell and being accepting. Like even this webinar and interacting with you is out of my comfort zone, but I want to do it because I know what's on the other side. Yeah.
Oh, so this is okay. Yeah, thanks for doing this webinar.
Thank you. Thank you for the chance. Thank you.
So I don't know, like, why would this make you nervous? I'm just the opportunity to do this. Okay.
Thank you. It makes me nervous because my hobbies, the way I am, I'm more towards introverted than extroverted. Like I don't have social media presence. I have a really small group of friends. So it's a bit out of my comfort zone, but I know it's really important for me to do this because I don't know how to write a good personal statement.
Yeah, so you're even willing to move beyond your comfort zone and grow is what I'm getting. Even though you're introverted, you're willing to be a bit more extroverted and explore that side if it makes you grow. Apart from that, once again, how has your cultural identity influenced your practice as a general surgeon in medicine overall, with how you grew up in Ireland?
Yeah, so I think what helped me with patient interactions is listening to them. I have never said anything back to an elder in my family, never. So that kind of gave me the ability to listen to angry individuals, to listen to people who are in stress because they're going through a lot, to sit there with patients and not caring what they tell me, but just trying to listen. I think that was a part of my social and my cultural upbringing that is really benefiting me with patients. I think I listen to my patients and I reflect and I explore into their thinking. And I've seen a lot of patients respond really well to that. And they would be angry, but 30 minutes later after the chat, they would be really grateful and they'd be really happy that I listened to them. And I think that's something I bring from the way I live to medicine.
Okay, I think that's pretty understandable coming from a culture you've dealt with angry individuals, dealt with anger, and seems you're able to diffuse situations when people are angry and control your own emotions, which I think is very important as a general surgeon, wouldn't you say? And it seems you find that one of your strengths, though, would be dealing with anger and dealing with, apart from other emotions. Whenever you need surgery, You can't let emotions take over. And
Yeah.
you have to figure out a way to deal with them. Do you
Yeah.
find that kind of your strength? That
I think Yeah,
Just be-
I think I find myself adaptable and really flexible. I don't mind taking a second, as a step back and just seeing what the situation is, trying to explore more to find a way. I think I'm more so willing to put myself in that situation. And I think that's important. And that gives you a way to sort things out.
say calmness is like one of your characters.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Sometimes it can come from a bit of not knowing what to do. And sometimes it can be from my confidence to do it. It's a mix of things, but I stay calm and see how things go.
Okay. So calmness is how your culture and being. You have to be respectful. You have to be and understanding that like maybe your elders, they're coming from a place of that anger is coming from a place of love. And maybe a lot of the times when the patient is struggling and whatnot, and the emotions that you're having as well, again, they're coming from a place of love as well, where the patient wants their siblings or their family wants the patient to survive. So there is anger, and you understand that it's coming from a patient of love. We're able to diffuse it. And for your own self, if you deal with emotions, again, you have learned that through your culture and your identity, is what I'm getting. So it brings the calmness into you.
I think so.
Yeah. So what's a quality your friend? So like now we have discovered his hooks, right? Backgrounds, we'll put them together later on. But I've gotten some course friends already in that he's a very calm person. Like I am neurotic. Let me tell you. That's why I kind of went, if you ask Kaushal, he's one of my teammates. I am so neurotic. You can make me really anxious. I am not a calm person, let me tell you. So that's not me, but you are, seems like it's a very, like I'm talking to you of a calm. That's a very good strength to have as a general surgeon. I would think about it. Second thing I would think about is persistence. In general surgery, for example, you've been so persistent. A lot of the times whenever you're doing surgery, you got to be persistent. Sometimes you don't get the right artery, things go wrong. You got to take a convoluted route. You have taken convoluted route. So that persistence is important as a general surgeon, and life has taught that to you. And you've lived the example, and not just you've lived your life the way you want to do surgery.
Yeah.
What else? And you don't give up, which is very important as a general surgeon. Like psychiatry, it's not as high stakes, but whatever you are doing is very high stakes, and it's very important you don't give up. In psychiatry, a few people can give up and patients will be okay somehow. Depressed, just yes, people can commit suicide, I get it, but it's still not as high stakes as what you are doing. You are the kind of person that people can depend upon, people are reliable, your family can, and your patients can too. So that's what I'm getting is you're very highly reliable, you're very calm, and you're very persistent. Those are some of the strengths that are coming in. Inactive, of course. But I'm thinking like, what are things that other people can't use? So we use the same genius kind of analogy. Genius, Einstein, what is that one or two words that I say this, you come to mind. So now let's go into some self-insight and strength. So what's a quality your friends or patients always noticing? They're like, and it's commonly not just one. Everyone will be like, hey, you are this way. How did you get to this way? Or like, could be a strength, could be a quality, anything. Like, give me a few qualities that other people have noticed in you. And it's very common. It's not just one, many people know.
I think one of them is approachability. I try to come off more as non-invasive in a way, with the way I carry myself or speak with anyone. If I were in the same room with multiple patients, anyone could ask me anything. And the way I communicate with them is going to give a positive vibe to all of the other patients. So they're happy to have a kind of communication with me. I think adaptability. So I don't mind doing what a nurse is supposed to do. I don't mind doing something that is not in like my kind of job description. I don't mind staying late. So I think adaptability, I want to improve on that further. I think that's a quality I should have to learn more. I think flexibility is the same. Adaptability would be a newer environment. So Pakistan here, US, I think that gives me a bit of positive. So when I go to a newer training place, I would be able to fit in more. Another quality would be just overall being caring towards patients, I would say.
So compassionate. My other question was like, what's that one thing that you find yourself doing on the weekends that other people are surprised that you do it? For other people, it's work. For you, it's more fun. And you do it on the weekend. An example I can give is, for example, I love making videos. I love reading a lot of books. That's who I am. People find that it's a chore, but for me, it's so easy. I love it. It actually makes me enjoy life. And I could live without it. So I do it on the weekend. What is that with you that you do over the weekend or other people won't?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will find this similar as well, but I love kind of making coffee different ways, and I love cooking. coffee, like different ways to make coffee. Like there's a whole world. Like people
Like I have a roommate that he's from Egypt. He like makes Turkish coffee for me. There's espresso. Just so many
Yeah.
ways. What are they you can make coffee?
So there are different ways. Each has its own use to it. So start from the basics. That there's something called a French press. It's basically just a mesh going through letting the water seep up through the coffee, and you just pour it out. There's something called a mocha pot. It's like there's a compartment of water, and steam comes up, goes through coffee, and another compartment where you pour out to a cup. You have new machines like the pods, which you can use, but there are a lot of people who are against plastics and want microplastics, so those are not good for them. You have then all metal devices, which you can use, but they're expensive. You can pair different grinders with your coffee machines, but they're super, super expensive. A basic one would be $200, $300 just for a grinder, and like $400 for a coffee machine. And they're like basic pour over cup coffee. So just a
I have a question. You like making coffee? Do you like the different tastes of it, or is it the process of just making it? What's fun? More fun? Is it like just like it comes of the coffee? Or is it just like the process?
I think it's more so the process. It locks me out of things, and I just focus on that one thing. And it's just more so the process than the taste. Of course, the taste is important, but I think like I could go out and get a coffee in a cafe. It would be really nice, but I'm not making it and I'm not involved in the process. So when I do it, it's more so the process. It's the same for cooking and trying different recipes together.
And trying different recipes together. My question is, do you find that general surgery kind of does the same thing as the coffee making and cooking? Because like it pulls you into it.
Yeah. So I like when you can lock in on something. If you watch a robotic surgery being operated, you just look at the screen and you just want to be focused on that and not think or speak about anything else. The same if you're looking at how a watch works, or like how a car engine works, or like how you make something with your hands, or say if you're somebody who likes working with leather or like a cobbler and such. I like these kind of things which can involve you practically, and you just get borderline confused by the process and just work through that. It sometimes really gives you an escape from everything else. And if you like it, then you'd want your work will be more easier than treating it as a vocation.
So I think, would you say we're trying to get to a destination, at least and it seems like it's more for the journey for you, like the enjoyment in the process. Do you think like general surgery is the same with you? Yes, it's about addressing the patient, getting the patient back together, just coffee making, cooking, getting the final outcome. But it's not just that, it's just the process of getting lost in the surgery and making those high stakes decisions and being just alive in it, and the different ways to go around and figuring out that puzzle. Just like you would do with coffee or cooking. Do you find that it's similar analogy?
Yeah, I do. I think the general surgery for me is I'm interested in it for multiple reasons, and the process is definitely a part of it.
Okay.
That's why advanced.
Yeah, that's why what?
That's why like new technology, a robot or new instrument or a new skill that any university has to teach or I have to attend, that excites me, and I want to go and do that. Or practicing laparoscopy skills or practicing basic stitching. It's rewarding when you get like a good stitch or good knot. It's really basic, but it's really rewarding.
Interesting. That's very interesting that your hobbies kind of coincide with general surgery that way, in terms of, again, like it's more if you can use that it's not just, yes, I want to help the patient, but I also find myself being lost in the general surgery. Apart from helping the patient, I think that's why I know it's what I want to go into. And there's just so many, it's a puzzle. There's so many different ways. Figuring out, making high stakes decision, that's what makes me feel alive. And that's why I want to be there. Because a lot of people don't care. They're more like, how do we get to the final outcome? For you, it's more about figuring out the process. And what are the diverse, it's not just one way to make coffee. Like I just like my coffee, just like grind. It's so much work. But I find that there's a very interesting fit, and that would make you very memorable, is using the coffee and the cooking analogy, especially. And also being want to try your coffee. So I didn't have coffee today. Should get coffee later on. What's easier for you than other people? Just wanting to talk about a few strengths. For example, what's easier is that you don't have to put in that much hard work in any of that activity or whatever. Other people have to, and they are like complaining that why is it so easier for you? Or, you sometimes notice that this is so easy. Why is it taking them so much time? And you put in the same effort, but your results are massively better than other people. So what are those things that you have noticed? And it's okay. Don't be.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that's easy for me is to sit down with the patients. I'll give an example. Whenever you're rounding, you might have seen somebody, like we're all standing around the patient, and because the bed is so low, they'll just sit down on the ground and speak with the patient just to be face to face. I learned that from a few mentors, and that makes the patient kind of really open up to you. Sometimes they're sitting on their chair and you ask if you could sit like beside them on like the bed or something, making them feel like you're having a social interaction outside of the hospital with them and trying to know them as a person, and then ask, okay, how are you? How was your weekend? Have you been sleeping okay? And then go to the main question, something that you want to know. So I think I like that. And I think that's one of the positives here. Another would be giving extra time to my practical skills in the specialty. So like having practice material at home, like suturing kits and such, and trying new things. So 2-3 days ago, we had a patient really like I did a blind kind of Foley's catheter. I know it's really simple and nothing major, but the uncircumcised patient and you couldn't see the urethral tip, and you can feel where the urethra is ending, and you just slowly go through it. I think exploring something new that I haven't done before and find that relatively easy. I would not be afraid from a procedure that I haven't done before, and it comes to me, then I would want to jump on it. I would want to be safe. I want to have some kind of backup, but I find it easy to kind of just jump in. I had a few surgeries done like myself. I had an appendectomy done as such. I would just kind of associate a bit of, I would kind of just tell myself that it's okay and let's just do this and jump into it. That ability, I don't know how you would kind of state that in one word, but just facing things. I think facing things is one of the things I would find myself doing more easier.
As novelty, yeah, we'll get back to that. Yeah, so this is more novelty seeking. You like new ways, novelty, that's what you're looking for. And that kind of coincides with general surgery because there's always new evolving ways to, again, come to the same destination, but maybe faster or in a more safer alternate. And that's a good skill set to have, just like novelty. And your best program and get new ways to make coffee, new ways to cook, new dishes. And I want to learn about new stuff in surgery coming up. So that's more novelty. That's kind of what I'm getting. And you're more geared for novelty. What would somebody be surprised to know about you? If you were to tell me something and I'll be like, it would stick in my memory. I've never met a person who does that.
Well, it'll be really hard to trump that nobody has done that. But a few things that you wouldn't get from just speaking with me outside on the road would be, I do 4 or 5 different kinds of sports, and I love go-karting. I'm really into watches and just consuming a lot of watches related media on YouTube, just see how they were developed and how the watch itself works, like the world of horology. Those would be the few kind of peculiar things too.
Yeah. Did you find the dexterity? Because it seems a lot of things that you do is very making watches, packing them up, and there's a dexterity element to that in your hands.
Yeah. If I were not into patient care, I wouldn't mind doing something in a watch world or something dealing with machines. If I had another career, I would say.
Yeah, that's what I get. Something that's very mechanistically oriented and requires dexterity. I think like dexterity and those things are very much important for making watches, opening them up, surgery, What are you most proud of outside of medicine?
I think I'm most proud of supporting my family. That's one thing that comes to my mind. And I think I'm proud of pursuing this. My application isn't stellar, but I want to give myself a chance. And I've seen a lot of people on the way who I meet who keeps pushing me, keep supporting me. So I'm really proud of them. Those would be the few things. Yeah.
And that's very important is evolution and keep going. And is specialty. So we're going to go to the specialty fit, guys, and we're going to end soon. But what moment made you realize this was your specialty, general surgeon? What was that exact moment?
Exact moment would be me.
When you got in the call, that was the only moment, the call one. Was there any other moment?
Yeah. I knew in med school that I wanted to go into general surgery. That's why I started training in general surgery in Pakistan. It was mostly so on your way after you book a patient and you're going to a theater, it's a different kind of feel that you don't get anywhere else. And I had exposure to that a lot in med school. And that kind of made me feel like I feel at home in the theater. And that's where I want to be.
Home in the theater.
Yeah.
I like you feel at home in the theater. Like the operation theater feels like home.
Yeah.
Kind of, because nobody would say that, but that would make me remember you. That operation theater is kind of like home. I don't know why. Because everyone says the opposite share. That's the poster one here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What energizes you the most during the surgery or the clinical rotations?
What energizes me most in a rotation is the scarcity of time and the scarcity of getting access to someone who can have monumental impacts on me. So if I have 4 weeks to spend with somebody, I will stick to them all the time, because that's the 4 weeks I'm not going to get again. And if I'm in a learning position, I can make mistakes. I can ask questions. I can ask how they would do certain things. I can ask about their journey. And I do that because they wouldn't mind me doing that, because I'm in that learning position. And after that kind of training, or like that small time that I have in a rotation with them, at the end, they're going to expect something out of me. And if I don't have it, then I see that as a failure. So that kind of ticking off clock, that kind of keeps me,
The urgency.
Yeah, the urgency. Yeah.
Keeps me on your toes. Okay. What kind of physician do you dream of becoming in terms of, let's say, you become a general surgeon? Or what do you see yourself in terms of, you want to be just an academic physician, a research-oriented physician, combination of academic research, clinical physician, or do you want to go to administrative law, become program chair, who's kind of managing projects and whatnot on a higher level? Or do you want a combination form? What do you see yourself becoming?
I see myself becoming more keen towards practical and clinical stuff than a lot of administrative. I don't really enjoy administrative work. I respect it, but to me, it seems just putting in too much time with not much results. I see myself going towards teaching. I really enjoy teaching. In my master's, I took a module on teaching and how to be an effective teacher. I really enjoy teaching skills, because you can see, like, even if it's a basic stitch taking and you know what you struggle with, and there's a new student who wants to start that, and you can tell them this is what you struggle with, and if you see that and you see how you solve that and you teach them that and they do it right, that's really rewarding to me. So I see myself going into somewhere where I learn a lot, and then taking that to somewhere where there's shortage of that skill, and teaching somebody and see kind of my efforts kind of translate into more learning for students. But all that after you learn the skill of surgery.
So multiple. So basically you're multiplying your skill of surgery by teaching other people.
Yeah, that'd be the best way to put it. Yeah.
And so lastly, program fit wise, what are the types of environment that you thrive in?
The types of environment I really thrive in is supportive, inclusive, encouraging. I like environment where people have fun while they're doing things. Like they're doing work, like you would make jokes, or you would have music in the OR. You would know everyone by first name, the surgical staff, the anesthetic staff. Everyone would get kind of recognition in being there. I think that's the environment I work in best.
Where OR feels like home?
Yeah. It feels like kind of, you don't have to be in a shell, and you can be yourself.
I love that. What unique perspective or strengths do you bring to the team? What do you think that you might have, right? One of the things that I think you have is you have been in Pakistan, you have been to Ireland. So you all two big experiences, like from major continents, like, you've been trained how to handle patients, and it's such a different level of patient care and version of patient care than what you will see in Ireland, which is so different. And now you want to come to the US, but like the diversity of your experience is, I don't think, what they can find in American candidates here. If they were to ask you a question, hey, what do you think you offer? Why should we give it to you as an IMG and not to an American graduate? One of the bigger answers is the diversity of your experiences, understanding of patient care. It really to acclimatize to changing continents is very hard.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of willpower. I don't think they're going to find the same in anybody else. That's your diversity experiences. But bringing that aside, what do you think? Is there any other unique perspective or strength you think that you have that others, like, they'll find hard that you know that people?
I think so, yeah. I've worked for 15 months in anesthesiology, so I can see the other aspect of general surgery. I've worked for almost 8 to 10 months in emergency medicine, so I can see that as well. Like, when you're working in emergency, your goal is to clear emergency beds and push people to whichever specialty you can. And then you can see what kind of loopholes can be used to give you a patient, say, abdominal pain, which could be gynae, or somebody didn't tell you one specific thing in history, which would make them some other specialty, or like even gastroenterology and such. I think I have exposure to that.
Understanding of different systems. Systems-based practices is one of the core competencies that we did discuss. Other people might not understand the systems. They just know general surgery, but your understanding of how anesthesia works, how the ED works, and just like that in two different continents, like, and you can think in higher level meta. When you think about the meta level, like meta surgery, that's how I can put it in one word, is going beyond just surgery and thinking at a higher level. That's something.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And lastly, what would you want the PD to remember about you as you?
I think I want them to remember that I will put in extra work. I will not need to be asked to stay, and that I will be there. I want to be dependable. I want to come off to them from my application or PS to be dependable. I want them to think of me as super low maintenance, and I want them to feel that it'll be easier for them to deal with me.
Gotcha. That's what you want. Lastly, just we're done with this mostly. Is there any failure that you ever had that you want to just talk about in this? Because I think that's what we just missed. Any failures?
Failures, I see two things, which I cannot do much about now, but I'm an old graduate. I graduated in 2018. I wish I had done things on time. And another is my step one score is quite low. It's in the 220s. So those two things I think are my failures.
And how have you improved on the step scores?
My step 2 is 235, and I'm taking step 3 in a couple of months. I've been improving my CV in other ways, like 10 plus publications, surgical masters, 4 or 5 surgery courses, and national presentations in surgery.
So you have done a lot to cover your base and a lot of publications. Any volunteering?
Yeah, I have. Not here, but when I was in Pakistan, we have a lot of underserved areas, and we used to do a lot of medical camps in underserved areas. I've been participating in them for a couple of years in med school.
Yeah, thank you for that. So now we'll just show you how to draft your PS. Before I go to that, here is the process we'll use, guys. So just stick for this. Again, this has been tested in the last 1 to 2 years as well. So it works beautifully. Let me show you the window part. Let me just project the entire screen. So if you can see my screen, let me open Keynote here. So the process we're going to take, and I'll show you how. So we asked all these questions, which you can do at home as well. What we are going to do now is use our artificial intelligence and just like showing you, not to just scare you. So this is from AAMC's ERAS portal. And it's clearly stated for the last 2 match years, and we have checked with them, the use of AI tool is acceptable for brainstorming, your personal statement, and group reading, and even editing it if needed. But the final submission should be original. So the way we have, so everyone who's applying to residency is going to use AI to brainstorm it, like it or. And if you don't use artificial intelligence for brainstorming your PS and taking the depth, so whatever we just talked about, if you don't use it, develop depth in your PS, you will be missing out big, because AI is very powerful at looking at patterns. It's very powerful at creating structures. What it is bad at is that it gives you a very patternated approach, which is very understandable that this is AI generated. And secondly, it's bad at writing itself. So what we personally do during this process is we use AI plus human mentoring as like the next gen statement creation, which we have been doing with PS3X for the last 2 years with wonderful results. So what we just did was human, like our brainstorming. Now what we are doing is we're going to take this transcript and we're going to put it in personally trained AI. We're going to give you the prompt if you need it. And we're going to go with you step by step on how to craft that personal statement. And this is not the final PS at all. What the AI is doing is creating the skeleton, the patterns that we want, the signature strengths that we want. That's all. Right? It's helping us brainstorm. It's helping us add the skeleton. Then what we do is we like personally use our own editor. This is a human editor that you get on a call with, you discuss, and they edit it for. But it takes that skeleton away and puts a soul there, which is yours. So we're using it to get ideas. We're using it to connect things. We're using it to put the paragraph together. But then we're adding that layer of human transformation so that the final edit is yours in accordance to what the AAMC says is that the final submission should be your work. It should be an original draft. But you can use this powerful tool, which is artificial intelligence, to come up with patterns, to come up with connections that normal humans just can't see. So we're going to do that for you. So let me just show you the process. Give me 1 second. So right now, if you look at the step-by-step process, so what we have done is we have come up with the hook, the journey, the strength, the fit through questions. And now we're going to draft the draft by creating like 3 to 4 signature qualities that you want to remember. The AI that you want to use, if you do use it, is called as Gemini. The reason we use Gemini is because it has an unlimited context window, which means even if I put something that's hour or 2 hours long, it is not going to forget it. So if you put it in any other artificial intelligence, the problem is what we call as primacy and recency, because AI's working memory is very limited. What that means is that what you're going to remember for this webinar is the starting and the end of it more than the middle of it. That's just a human way. That's how humans work. Similar to that, because that's like also your working memory. That's how it works. We only remember mostly the first and the last part. We don't remember the middle as well. AI is the same thing. If you put it in a AI with a very limited working memory or context length, it doesn't remember the middle. It will only remember a few parts, the first and the last. What you want to do is put it in like something like Gemini, which is like Google. It has unlimited context window. So it remembers the middle portion. And we've iterated on it so many times. And that's how I landed upon Gemini last 2 years ago. So let me show you how this process works. Can you send me the transcript or can you show them the process?
I have sent you the transcript, Manik. I think you can do it best.
Is it in doc?
Is it on chat? It's in our chat. It says
Can you put it as docs?
yes, of course.
Also, can you send me your documents to me, Mohammed?
Yeah, I'll send them now.
To our main WhatsApp. Or if you can email them to us, that would be great. Right?
Give me a second. I'm opening it. Just give us a second, guys.
So he would be sending it to the email. I'll put the transcript in our chat as well for you to see.
All right, guys. So let me show you how this will work. Okay. Let me project my screen as well for you and let's show you. Okay. And you can tell me how this would work as well. 1 second. Okay. So let me do a screen capture and can you send me your application? Can you send me the your application credentials and anything you have?
Yes, they're coming to your email now.
What's the email that you're sending to? Let me show them the drop that we use. Okay. So let me just do that. Give me 1 second. Guys.
In the meantime, that Manik is showing the stuff, does anyone have any questions? I know a couple of people had done their PS already. I wanted to ask if anyone can volunteer with respect to the brainstorming session, if you had any feedback on that.
Hello.
Yes.
So my question was, can we send our personal statements to your email or WhatsApp account so you can like give feedback on it?
Oh, yes.
Amazing. Thank you.
And I just wanted to highlight that in many cases, we have seen people ask us to edit the personal statement, give minor edits. We always wonder if they have not included a couple of core competencies or they've not thought about their application in this particular direction. It's very hard to give them feedback because in some cases we have seen that, out of 6 core competencies, only 1 was addressed. So you're missing out 5. And the other thing that I do want to highlight that what Manik and I have noticed over the years is with respect to the context, the American patient context is very different from the context of Indian patient. So if you're giving more highlights or experience with respect to context from the home country, that might not be considered as you have experience with context with US patients. Did you see?
So let me attach it. Let me just see, and I'll show you the prompt as well. I will send it to you and no worries. That will our purpose here was to over deliver, and let me show you. Let's start. Is it auto updating as we're going or no?
Which one? Oh no, that was only for that particular session. I recorded it on the thing. Only for your brainstorming session with him.
Good.
Do you want to share your screen? Because I'm not seeing your screen.
Give me 1 second. Okay, guys. So let me do a sharing and show you. Where is the meet? All right, guys. So let me show you. Please watch closely so that you do this correctly. Okay, let's show them. Okay, the process. So let me open a Google Doc here. So this is the PS for Mohammed. So we have taken the transcript. You can, again, if you want to do it yourself, you can open Gemini or whatever, and you can give it the guide and ask you to give, all the questions and ask you the follow-up questions. That's one way. The lack there, though, is that if, let's say, the Gemini does it, might not know what are the right follow-up questions for the USMLE process. But again, if you have somebody else, a senior or somebody else who asks you these questions, and then you can just talk to them conversationally, let it interview you. You can also AI interview you to help you brainstorm it, which now everyone is doing in the match process. That's not an issue. What you should do is make sure you have the transcript ready. So this is the whole transcript we just talked about. It's very long. And it has all his answers complete. The reason I know is I've asked him the questions, any volunteering, and you can see that. What we are going to use is, let me just show the prompt that I'm going to use here. Docs, Google com, and let me create a blind document here. This is the prompt that I use. Okay. So we're going to give it to you. So it's a world-class residency application writing coach and editor. I have created some application my materials which I attached to it, and I'm going to put the transcript in. Whatever Ahmed has sent me, if there's LORs, if there is something else that we should be mindful of, including his experiences, ERA CV or whatever, I'm going to include that in this prompt as well. And I've given it absolute constraints, what to do, what not to do, like avoid cliches. And we're going to input the specialty. So he's applying to general surgery, and I'll input it here, general surgery. And I'm going to put the transcript here. Transcript is attached. Okay. So it's going to get the transcript, and then key CV highlights attach this file. So I'm going to put his CV. If there's LORs, I'm going to put the LORs. An international medical graduate. He's from Pakistan, now in Ireland. Okay. And I'll show you the workflow, how to do this, because you don't want it to spit out a PS. That sounds really bad. What you need is like something more. You need to go step by step. Okay. So yeah, we have filled in all the requirements, and I'm going to start this process. So let's go with this. This is just the final draft, guys. Again, you don't need to send that to the program. You want to make it human. We'll talk about how to do that. Can you guys see my screen? Yes. So this is, let me just add Muhammad's, transcript here. So you assembly-wise email?
Yes.
Yes.
Have you already written a personal statement before?
I wrote this a few weeks ago. I came across a general surgeon and I asked him if he would review my personal statement. He said yes. So I wrote a draft recently.
Is the same ERA CV, or is it, this is different. Is this the CV, because I see 2 ERA CVs?
This, I have sent one ERS CV from last year and the ERS application. This year's application I'm still working on. And I've sent my general CV there as well and a PS.
Okay. Is the new ERA CV, is it inclusive of all the uses in the previous one?
They might have been repeat sent by reattaching, because I sent 2 emails, but I've sent one ERAS CV, one ERAS application, one personal statement, and one general CV.
All right. I'm going to attach it to it. So we have downloaded all of his documents, and I'm going to attach it so it understands the whole context of who Tarik is. So his whole CV, I'm attaching multiple CVs. I'm attaching the PS that he has crafted. And this is the docx. Okay, the same one. Okay. So this is the PS, so I'll put it as transcript. Okay, right.
Let's not attach his PS. I don't think that is it.
We'll compare it. I think that's a better one to attach.
We'll compare that later, I believe.
All right. Okay. So we attached the CV. We attached like multiple CVs. We have attached a transcript, and we attach. So it has all the context, guys. And I want you to see, I'm going to remove this, how this looks like. Okay. So let's make it full screen. So we have entered the prompt. And you can use the same. I've entered general surgery in the US. Okay. And transcript is attached. And this is attached, this file. Notably, there's no LORs right now. So take that out. International, not in Ireland. And pursue. You're in family medicine.
Yes, I am.
Residency, 3rd year. Yeah.
Sorry, but second year.
Okay, non-second year. Okay. Step 1 would be, we would first discover the most telling data points from this import. So it will go through all these and look at whatever we have given it. It's going to look at what are the biggest memorable moments that we thought of during a brainstorm. It's going to give us 3 high impact keywords and phrases that describes him in terms of the core competencies and the ESCM model and the PCM model. Second is, after we define these data points, we're going to create, like for him, the keywords would be like persistent, novelty, curious, and gritty is a big one, adaptable. So a lot of those keywords come to my mind. And then we're going to list 1 to 2 concrete experiences from the CV that prove that theme for each of the points. And then we're going to create like a table, and then I'll show you the blueprint of how, like hope journey, strength block 1 and strength block 2, and then the conclusion. And then it'll create a full draft, and we'll go through it step by step. So let's shoot.
And we do have, just to clarify, we will remove things like privacy and stuff, number 1, and number 2. The company account. So it is none of the data is getting shared with Google. Just want to highlight that.
Generally, if you want to use something like the Pro model, because that does it way better. So let's look at the rapid step 1 profile theme and discovery. So it talks about unwavering persistence. So yeah, I figured that pattern out like I did. Adaptability across continents and a deep intrinsic connection to the craft of surgery. Craft of surgery is important. And then it sees that we talked about the small village in Pakistan, and then went to medical training in Ireland and clinical experience in the US, demonstrate exceptional grip, is not merely drawn to the surgery's outcome, but to its high stakes, intricate process. So it's not just the outcome like we discussed, it's the process, a passion that is mirrored in his personal hobbies as well. He's a very process-oriented person, not an outcome-oriented, just an outcome-oriented. His calm posture is right, that's what made him, and his broad clinical exposure is varied in varied healthcare systems, make him a uniquely resilient and insightful candidate for general surgery. So the exact data points that are very important is the cross-continental journey, which is self-funded, as we discussed, right from Pakistan to Ireland to pursue advanced training, demonstrates immense drive, resourcefulness, and persistence. Second is surgery as a high-stakes craft. So if for him, life is a craft, that's how I would put it. He loves making coffee, he loves doing cooking, and surgery is that fast-paced craft where he finds long, demanding shifts rewarding, which is very weird. I would find that, wow, that's insane. He feels at home in the operating theater. So it captured the coffee and the cooking analogy. His love for intricate processes of making coffee and cooking serves as a powerful metaphor for his passion in his surgery. He enjoys getting lost in the focused, hands-on, puzzling nature of the craft, and the innate calmness that we discussed, global perspective, unwavering persistence, a desire to teach, palliative care insight. So it looked at all his insights, love for novelty and dexterity, quiet dependability, and proposed applicant keywords and themes, the calm craftsman. So the theme connects his culturally ingrained exposure and ability to handle pressure with his deep appreciation for intricate hands-on pressure process for surgery, much like a craftsman dedicated to their art. Adaptable persistence, the phrase captures his, so this is his keyword, adaptable persistence. The phrase captures his relentless multi-year cross-continental journey, highlighting not just the grit, but also his open ability to thrive, proven ability to thrive, and learn within entirely different healthcare systems and cultures. High stakes dedication. This speaks to his core motivation, unique energy and sense of purpose in such a life-saving nature of surgery, and his commitment to being a dependable presence in critical moments. So high stakes dedication. He's dedicated to the high stakes moment. So now it's asking us a few clarifying questions that we need to give it answers. Tariq, if you can just answer these few questions for me. Number one is the story of the elderly lady with the stercoral colitis is a powerful potential hook. To make it more vivid, can you provide a pseudonym for her, any name that you want to give her, and recall one specific sensory detail or internal thought from that moment in the OR?
Yes, I would not be able to give her an identifiable name, but we can call her Miss Jane, as like a Jane Doe.
Miss Jane.
Miss Jane, yeah.
Okay.
And to
detail. This is, what did you see, smell, hear, feel?
Yeah.
The heartbeat. Give me sensory detail.
I felt achievement, to be honest. There were like more than 4 or 5 jokes about excrement, but my senior, the attending, told me, like in a joking way, he said, "Do you still want to do this?" And I said, "That's exactly what I want to do." So there was a feeling of achievement because I knew her history, how she had been recently went through a cardiopulmonary collapse and being resuscitated and shocked. And now we were literally saving her life. I think it was like rewarding in that moment. Does that help?
I want sensory details. What did you smell? What did you like? Give me just more sensory details, because if you want to evoke those things, they can imagine it. Give me what you smelled, what you saw, what you heard. Just describe that concretely for me. An example is, I could feel her blood pumping through as I was doing, like, let's say you're doing CPR. I could feel his heartbeat as I was pumping his chest decrease, and that gave me goosebumps. I'm describing the sensory detail. Give me any sensory details from there, anything that you remember.
Yeah, a sensory detail would be the feeling of the fluid on my gloves after we opened her abdomen. Like, her abdomen was so full, we washed like 7-8 liters of saline, so it was full to begin with. But that sensation was, because the smell, it was excrement, so I don't know if I can mention that. It wouldn't come off as, but the sensation was, so the gush of fluid coming onto my, not scrubs, but gloves and forearms from right after we opened her abdomen.
Okay, so the vivid detail. So second, it's asking is, your CV mentions the family medicine training at the Trinity College Dublin starting in July 2024, but the transcripts mentions being, okay, so could you clarify your current training status? So currently in second year.
Yes.
In Trinity College Dublin. Third, you mentioned your pride in supporting your family's education. Is there a brief specific moment or image that comes to mind that illustrates this sense of fulfillment? It's asking you a concrete moment. Again, what I want, like when I say concrete, tell me what you saw. Exact moment. For example, saving a patient, same example, dying, CPR, their heartbeats decreasing, and I can feel it. The blood is decreasing. That's concrete. Give me the concrete.
A concrete example would be my elder brother feeling really proud of me and expressing it to me, even though he's 10 years elder than me, and which wouldn't be really his norm. But he expressed it to me because I supported his child in education to give him financial support.
Describe that moment exactly for me. Let's freeze that moment in time. The one you remember, just describe the details, visual details. What did you see? What did you hear? What did you like? I'm not just asking emotion. I'm saying sensory details. I'm not getting that.
Yeah. Looking into our eyes and finding him really grateful and him opening up to me like he wouldn't usually do that. So I saw building like this new connection with him, and that support to his kid was the way to reach there.
So looking into his eyes and what?
And finding him grateful, expressing, finding his gratitude kind of made me feel proud in what I did.
The area that you're seeing is trained. And again, we want concrete examples. And that's what I keep telling people, because look at the difference that he's talking just about abdominal surgery. The reason this is because we humans have an abstraction bias. I talk about that later, but it's very hard for us to think concretely because it requires a lot of brain energy to do that. So as a way to conserve energy, we think in buckets. Example I can give you is instead of carrying many oranges in your hand, your brain would like to carry it in a bucket. So like that, mind abstraction is a shortcut. It's like a bucket. And that's why it's hard for us to concretely define that moment. But if we can't concretely define that, others can't feel it. It's very different if he were to say that I saved this patient's life versus I could feel the fluid gush on my hands and the smell of excursion. That makes you imagine it and you're not going to forget that. But if he says that I just saved this patient, they had this issue, you're not going to remember. And that's what we want is concrete experiences throughout your application. Even during the interview, when you give the answer, I want that concrete experience. So the PD is like, hey, I remember that. Otherwise, PDs are going to forget. So now it's going to, like we gave it the details, it's going to add significant depth. Step 2 is experience mapping. Here, it's going to look at the main keywords, the calm craftsman, which he is. So experience summary is his passion for intricate things, and strength shown his process for making coffee mirrors, his love for the focused hands-on craft of surgery, where he feels completely absorbed. So I drew that out. And the specialty tie is his dexterity, focus, process orientation, emotional regulation, which is very important, and poise under pressure. And general surgery really demands all of these. And it shows in his hobbies as well, that he's that calm craftsman that can make a lot of things happen. Even watches, adaptable persistence, so self-funded journey from Pakistan to Ireland. He talks about that. I'm not going to go into much detail because it's going to take so much time. Actively overcame challenge. That's what supports the keyword of adaptable persistence, which this shows his strengths of grit, resilience, determination, cultural competence, and growth mindset. And special tie is in surgical career is a marathon of continuous learning and adaptation. This proves that he has long-term resilience to handle the rigorous of surgical training and the flexibility to master evolving techniques and systems, just like he's mastered cultural adaptations. High stakes dedication. He vividly recalls sharing his detailed course of stereochordal colitis and cardiac arrest, where the of winning against the odds in a life or death situation solidified his commitment to surgery. So he talks about that. That's his high stakes dedication. This shows dependability, commitment, courage, sense of responsibility, general surgery is similar to that. Okay, let's proceed. So we're going to build the outline. One of the best ways to work with AI is not to ask it, give me the fitting PS. It's going to make a shitty thing. You have to give it feedback along the whole process. That's how it's like working with an employee or a person. You have to tell it step by step. Let's proceed to step 3. So you want to stop it if needed and tell it that maybe you need to correct this. I think this is wrong, but let's go to step 3. Now it's trying to tie all of these trends and everything, the hooks, into a proper narrative along the structure that I gave you before. And it's going to refine the blueprint. So the outline blueprint is hook. So we're going to start with the high stakes, visceral feeling of operating on Miss Jane and his internal chaos, the cardiac arrest, the gush of fluid. I'm going to start with that. So the PD is, remember, PCM model. It's going to make them imagine things. Second is journey background. So we're going to go into his journey, how he was able to self-fund his path. Here is low step 1 score. And then how he used as whatever happened, he used it as a fuel for his persistent efforts to strengthen his through a surgical master research and diverse medical work. Strength block 1 is the calm craftsman. Strength block 2 is the calm and wise specialty. And the last is the conclusion that we're going to go in. Okay, here. Okay, let's go to, so now it's going to give us a full draft and we're going to just review it and see and compare side by side what you guys think. Again, AI will use patterns which are very recognizable. What you want to do is once it produces that, you want to create your own original draft using that as scaffolding. So all that is the skeleton. You're going to put your soul there and remove the skeleton. That's basically what's going on. So let's read this personal statement. And again, AI is not like, it uses these things are called as EM dashes. Avoid these. It's very understandable that this is AI. Don't want to use this, but let's go through this together. It also gave us an improvement checklist that like teaching experiences, maybe that can be added, the why you. So it's been trained on that. If you want to send us your personal statement on your transcript, we'll do that for you, no worries. But let's read through this, okay? The gush of fluid on my hands was a starting confirmation of the chaos within Miss Jane's abdomen. But in that moment of fighting against the odds, I felt an undeniable sense of purpose. An elderly woman with cerebral colitis, she had gone into cardiac arrest in the emergency department. Now in the OR, we were her only chance. The high stakes pressure, the demand for immediate and precise action, the feeling of achieving a victory for her against overwhelming odds. This was not a situation to be feared. It was a confirmation of where I belong. Right now, I want to read more. That's a good hook. And it's high stakes. It makes me imagine things. Let's read. If you want to go into the previous personal statement, Mohammed, I want to show you, let's go to the previous hook. Tariq. So let's look at the previous hook. I am international medical graduate from Pakistan. I'm currently working in Ireland, have 3 years of PG training, and I'm pursuing a general surgery residency, but whatever, in your program. Interested. I'm interested. I think you haven't adapted. I've been experiencing, like practicing in different trainings in non-surgical training and non-surgical positions, which is different for US healthcare systems, where you may go through a residency to be able to. Let me ask you, which one would you want to read more? The first one or the second one? Be very honest. The one that we just made and or this one, like that we are starting, and he hasn't edited, and there's no criticism to him. But just going through this, what do you think would you want to read more? Just put it in the comments. The first one or the second one? Okay. Let's just keep going through this and I'll give you the process as well. The path to operating room has been a marathon of persistence. I grew up in a small village in Pakistan, the first in my family to become a doctor. My goal was always to pursue the highest standard of training, a journey. I self-funded my moving to Ireland for work and further education. This path has not been without challenges as an old in the step one school that potential. Again, there is some layer of arrogance to it and human would be able to take that out. But AI, again, all it is scaffolding, but go through this with me and then we can fix it. I knew I had to prove my dedication through action. In order to compensate for the step one score and the older graduate, I had to do something. I committed myself to this goal, earning a master's of surgery, contributing over 10 publications and immersing myself in diverse clinical environments across 3 continents. Each step reinforced my resilience and adaptability. What draws me to surgery is my love for the craft itself. I find a similar sense of deep focus in personal hobbies like mastering the process of making coffee or exploring the intricate mechanics of watches. These activities require a quiet focus that locks me out of the world, allowing me to completely get absorbed in the process. I feel the same profound engagement in the OR, whether practicing a knee suture technique or assisting a procedure. I'm captivating with a blend of manual dexterity and intellectual rigor. The craft demands my full attention and I give it willingly. The craftsman's focus is anchored by an innate calm, the quality I attribute to my cultural upbringing where I learned the value of listening carefully and respectfully. This composure allows me to manage this inevitable stress of a high-pitched environment, providing a clarity when it is needed the most. It is this unique combination, the quiet focus of the craftsman, the steady hand of a calm leader that makes the operating theater feel like home. It's a demanding and unforgiving environment, yet it's where I feel the most centered. My dedication to surgery is rooted in deep-centered sense of responsibility. I feel the same sense of commitment in my personal life, feeling immense pride in supporting my family and seeing the dog of my brother's eye as I help with his education. So we have to connect that in my brother's eyes as I help with the education of his son. This drive to be dependable is what I want to bring to the program. Same drive. I am seeking a challenging and supportive academic environment where I can be part of an inclusive team that finds joy in their work. My ultimate goal is to become a clinical teacher, allowing me to multiply my impact by passing on the surgical craft. So remember, the craft is a big keyword here. To this next generation of physicians, I'm eager to bring my cross-continental perspective and craftsman focus to a program that values persistence. And I am ready to dedicate myself to becoming calm, dependable, and skillful surgeon my patients and team can always trust. We'll read the previous statement. I don't have the whole time, but let's just read one part of it. Okay, the idea of helping patients where I get this privilege to essentially remove the essence and cause of the ailments in real time is fascinating to me. The impact that surgery produces in a patient's life and the expediency to achieve that result is second to none. I find working in surgery to be cognitively satisfying and rewarding and partial. So what you would find is it's good, but he's repeating kind of the same things through the sentences. You don't want to do that. With each sentence, you should be adding something new. And what I here see is it's more regurgitation of what he's done, where this is more representation of his soul. And if what we generally do is once this is done, let me show you the presentation and go back to it. So this is basically we have created the first draft, and now generally we have an editor. If you go through whatever our service or anyone, if you want to take somebody else's, go to Fiverr, Upwork, if that's what you prefer, you can go there. We take that skeleton and we remove like whatever. We ask the person to write it from scratch. Take this, but we want it to be written by a human who basically is on, let's say, a WhatsApp chat with you, and they keep giving you the revisions that here's revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, anything you find that's missing, they want to add. But this actually accelerates the process of creating a PS and doesn't leave you hanging where there's so many other things to be done. ERA CV you have to complete. You have to do LORs. You have to do interview prep. What you want to do is you want to decrease the time to draft creation for the PS to the minimum. You want to take, let's say, a day, not more than that, and then just keep iterating on that. That's how creativity works, is instead of working with a blank page where you're trying to fill it without a framework, what you want is this Galapagos of ideas. That's what they call it. If you go to Hawaii, all the islands there are actually, Hawaii is not one island, it's multiple islands. We call it Galapagos of islands. So that's Hawaii. You want to do the same thing in your PS where there are big ideas that you've put in, like through a framework. So Galapagos of ideas, different islands of ideas in a framework. And then you just want to keep iterating really fast on it to come to a good PS rather than going to a blank page, no framework, and putting all your ideas together, which is very hard. This is much better. It has context of your PS. You can edit it. You can do it on your own if you need it. If you want somebody again from our team, and we'll talk about how to do that as well, we can help you with that as well. If you have any questions, again, I'll be staying back in the end. But this is what you want to do to create your PS. And again, you can read the AMC's role. We've been doing it for 2 to 3 years. We've actually had better results than our previous math cycles. Lastly, that I just want to jump in. I wanted to show you the PS that I edited, our editors edited. This is basically a version of my own PS where it's humanized. So my inspiration to become a psychiatrist dates back to high school, specifically my 10th grade. I had a close friend who had obsessions with even numbers. He stayed long hours after school trying to touch the desk, and even number of times plagued by the find that he had not done it wrong. So that's basically OCD. I watched with deep sympathy as the other cheerful classmate I always knew kept trying to accomplish a mundane task, being compelled by the nature to do it right, intensely with the fear of failure. As I explored his behavior with him in a collegial setting, he revealed to me his diagnosis of OCD. Unfortunately, financial constraints prevented him from seeking therapy. This motivated me to read extensively on his diagnosis, learn about CBT, and work with him tirelessly to empower him to control his compulsions. This was written by a human editor. We initially did like a draft for this using AI later on, but then we humanized it, and you can see it reads human. And you get pulled into it. It's a specific concrete example. You can imagine that he's tapping, thinking even number of times, and that's OCD. And we'll talk about how we do it, but I'll send this presentation and you can have a read of my own PS that we have generated. Lastly, I think it's very important before you even write your PS, it's very important for you to understand who you are. An example I give you is when I was applying to my math cycle, I had a 270, which is very weird to have in psychiatry at that time. And I did not get many interviews from community programs. I got so many interviews from academic programs. And I was like, why? I'm better than community programs. They should give me an interview. The answer is because if I ended up there, I would have not been happy. And because if I weren't happy, I would have left, or they would have been unhappy with me. Because I want research, I want academics. They have community. They can't give me academics or research. So they would have been unhappy. So whenever you're signaling, it's very important to understand who you are. For me, the signals would have gone to very academic programs, not to community programs, knowing who I am. And my personal statement would be geared towards those programs as well. I would also personalize each personal statement to make sure I'm sending it to, let's say, a Columbia or whatever program that I think I have a chance at. I would think about what signal, like Columbia would not take me because I'm an IMG. But if I'm an IMG, let's say another place like UPMC does take IMG physicians. If I know that, I would write the signal specific PS, include that in the end paragraph, and make it specialized to it. I would also, but it's very important to know who I am and what my signaling strategy is or math strategy is before even I write my PS. And that's why it's very important for you to know that. Without that, you're just like going into this whole crossfire, writing a PS, which is not geared towards any program, and then hoping that your signals will give you an interview. They won't if they think that there's multiple incoherence. An example is, if I go to this previous PS, right, we just vote for him, and he starts signaling this guy's interested in academics and more research, That's just an example. And his whole application reflects that. But all of a sudden, he's signaling the program, which is community, has none of that, right? They're not going to send him an interview because they're like, this guy's going to be unhappy. So I think it's very important for you to know who you are and your signaling strategy, where you want to go before you craft your PS, because that signaling strategy determines the coherence of your PS. And if it's incoherent, you just write it out of, let's say, in context of an application or a signaling strategy. It sounds very weird. It sounds like this doesn't make sense. I'm not really sure of this. So you need to think about all these structures working together to indicate who you are. That's it, guys. Common mistakes just you should be avoiding is please make sure that you're including the core competencies. If you went through his PS, I could show you that there are all the core competencies are reflected in his PS, all the 6 if you go through the presentation. I've included all the ESCM models in that, which the ACGME and other, like they recommend. The Medical Schools Admissions Committee and the Residence Admissions Committee also include the PCM model where we're using imagination, values, core, some element of fun, coffee making, which kind of ties it together for you. So I think that's very important. And using the competency mapping is very important. What we personally would say is personalize your PS to either of 3 based upon who you are. There are people who are like in the mid-tier, like for example, what we just did. I think he should apply to the moderate track where the PS should be clinically and academically balanced based on his scores. And I think there is some clinical element because he loves working with patients. I'm not that clinically oriented, I'll be honest. But for him, he should create a PS that appeals to both of them generally, right? And apply and signal programs which are community-based, university affiliated, or more so community-based upon the application strength. And he should personalize his PS to them. So it's very important for him to know who he is and where he is applying and what his strategy is in order to even draft the PS. And that's why it's very important for you to know that. And that's the strategy I will tell you is if you're the top tier applicant who doesn't like clinical work, more academic oriented, make it more academically oriented, more research, more teaching. If you're in the middle, you're mid-level, you like that, do clinical plus academic. If you're more like you're in the lower tier, your scores are not that good and your application isn't in the top tier 1%, do more community oriented PS because you have a higher chance. And also signal, whenever you send signals, that should be based on this. And your PS should also reflect that and also deal the end paragraph as well. That should be. And that's kind of what I was talking about is signal calibration and asking yourself before, what should my signals be in order to even draft a proper PS. So just wanted to introduce our service. And again, if you don't want to go through us, that's completely okay. I want to give you the whole process and you can delete it, whatever we are teaching or whatever, take what you want. And then you can take it to Upwork or whatever you have, any other editor who wants to work with you and apply that process. That is completely okay with us. The reason I built this is I remember when I was giving a presentation for humans of USMLE, we were sitting together and somebody asked me, should I go with you or whatnot? And I just felt like I talked to so many Sarthi students and other people. And what I had learned from them is what they were doing for students in their good organization, but it was more supportive and it wasn't actually like changing outcomes for them. And that's why I and Kaushik got together and I wanted to build USMLE Wise, where we were looking at data. We were looking at what are the program directors saying, what do they actually care about, and use that data-informed feedback cycle from the programs and apply it to match applications and reverse engineering these applications and creating applications where we're creating a real impact. It's actually increasing the number of interviews and not just supporting you, that we're going to give you a video series, watch it, write it on your own. We wanted to give you something that is more actionable and not something that is just you'll figure it out. And that's why we built this. And this is the PS3X process, which we've been doing it for the last 3 years. If you want to work with us for the PS, basically just like I sat on a call here, you would sit on a call with one of our mentors who is in that field, whichever you want to apply to. It could be general surgery, family medicine in the US. They know what the process is. They've been through it themselves. They want to sit with you. They want to extract your story. This is going to take 30 to 90 minutes based upon how much your story is, how big it is. We're going to use that, create that first draft for you. And the first draft that will be sent to you will not be AI. We'll take that draft that we just gave you and we give it to our human. He sits there. There's a WhatsApp group. He'll give you a human draft. You can put it through any plagiarism check you want. You can send it to other people. It will be completely human. And I can send you that draft as well. And you can tell them whatever feedback you have and they'll make unlimited revisions for you. It will be a WhatsApp group. The response time should be less than a day and they can do it for you. and we'll be there till we perfect your PS for you. Okay. Lastly, what is the cost? Like before I go into the cost of this, what makes us different is again, we take insights from CV. Whenever this applicant gets on a call with you, it's not just that we feed it to like the AI itself. The application will review, the mentor that will sit on a call like I did, right? Is going through your entire CV before we go to the story extraction call. So we know who you are. And we call that integrated application coherence, which is your CV, your PS, your CV, all of your letters should have a coherent story, and it should not tell different stories to each. Your CV should not say community, and your PS is saying academic, and letters are saying something else. We want you to send us everything. The mentor is going to sit with you, is going to review it for an hour. Then sit on a call and kind of draft your entire PS or whatever service you avail, but that's for you. And they're going to do the same thing that I did. And then we're going to put a human editor as well there, who's going to work with you to craft that perfect CV for you, which is again, human made, but AI brainstormed again with humans, as we said. This is built for blank pages. If you don't have anything in mind, you haven't written your PS, just jump on a call with us. It's built for blank pages. That's how I've engineered the protocol. And it should take not more than a week for you to get your final draft. Lastly, so what are the pricing options if you want to go with us? If you want just one specialty, we include unlimited revisions. This does not include signals because that takes a lot of time in researching each signal and that just doesn't work. So we can do it for one specialty for $249. And this includes the brainstorming call, the application review and creating that. And this would include formatting, structures, language revisions if needed, whatever I just took you through, plus accumulated limited revisions for one specialty, not signals. For two specialties, if you need that, we give you a discount. It's $450. You want three specialties, we do it for $650. I will not recommend anybody to apply to three specialties anyways. I would do one or two specialties because I think three just make it too hodgepodge. We also have the signal personalized personal statement. It's sold out as an individual buy. If you want to buy it as an individual package, because we don't have spots, it takes a lot of effort. If you want it as a match package, I can show you how that looks like. Okay. I just want you to hear like from the previous match applicants we have worked with in terms of, I can send you this presentation. We have people matched in emergency medicine, general surgery, neurosurgery, internal medicine in the top academic programs. And we have the most data from these people about what's happening in each program and what do they care about. A lot of the times when you're working with a mentor we provide, they try to work with you to get you into that program if they feel you're good enough. If they feel you're not good enough, they're not going to recommend that. But if you work with us, we can do that. We'll answer all your questions and I think we'll send you a WhatsApp message and Kaushik can clarify any questions and we'll do that later. But let me show you our match packages as well. We'll do a Q&A and it's up to you again. You can go to any other service. There's USM, there's Match, there's ClassApp. And if you think they are better than us, please go ahead with that. What my purpose was to give you a structure to think for the entire application. And if that benefits you, that's awesome. And you want to take it by yourself or whatever, do that. But let me show you ours that we have built. 1 second. Kaushik, can you show that, the one that I sent you?
In the meantime, Dr. Singh is there.
Yeah, we're just going to bring a few people who have worked with us just so that you can have a conversation with them if you want and ask them questions and then matched. So Shreya, could you hi, long time no. I like your shirt. Suits your glasses. So it's like an orange theme going on. So could you just give us a brief introduction and where you are and what you're doing?
So I'm in my first year family medicine residency at Southern Illinois University program. So that's what I'm doing. I was doing research prior and I had worked with the USMLE Wise team, mainly Manik, and supported by Kaushik too. For my match application, I actually matched off cycle after SOAP. So it was a very difficult path to navigate because I did not do the main match. I actually did the SOAP and that was very stressful. And after that, I kept applying. Actually, after SOAP is when I mainly reached out to Manik and Kaushik. And I think it was very helpful to match this cycle and not wait for the second one because this is an amazing program. And also with a lot of uncertainty, it's always better to get a foot into a program. And then even if you want to change specialties, like I don't want to do that, but even if you want to change specialties, it's a great option to be in the system. So yeah, and I'm here today.
I just had a question. I know you applied late to the math cycle. Could you just tell us about your scores and when you reached out, how were you, where were you, and just a bit about your profile, a bit, just very the cliff notes.
So yeah, I graduated in 2020 from India and then I practiced for a bit, for about 2 years. I was strongly considering Indian entrance exams. Due to COVID and everything, I moved here to do research. And I did research here for about 2.5 years. I did 1 year at Mayo Clinic and almost 2 years. So that's total 3 years at
Where did
University of
you do
Pittsburgh.
research? Where did you do your research? What specialty or?
I did it in internal medicine. So it was very internal medicine focused. I did basic science research and some clinical research at Mayo Clinic for 1 year. And for internal medicine, the subspecialty doesn't matter. There are a lot of subspecialties of research you can pick from. And then I did
The scores, like I know, like we went through a lot. Like you kept on delaying your exams, and could you just tell a bit about your scores and like what happened there?
Yeah, so step one was fine. And then for step two, there's a lot of emphasis on the score right now because obviously you have to score if you wanted a surgical specialty, which is what I wanted. So I waited for too long and then work got really hectic. Because when you're on a paid research job, it's just hectic because they are monitoring your outcomes continuously and you're also on visa. So you have to keep your primary job going. So I delayed it and then I realized, okay, this is not worth it. And I just took it and I scored about a 225 in step two. But by now, I was very well acquainted to the system and I knew that even if I wanted to try general surgery prelim or internal medicine, I could still do it. But then I did not want to wait for the next cycle. So I finished my step two in Jan. And from previous experience, I know that it's better not to send your application in without your step two score. So I waited till Jan and my results came out almost end of Jan. So the main match was done. And then I applied or sent in my applications for internal medicine and family medicine, who were accepting application at that point of time. So that's when I mainly sought your guidance, basically.
Yeah. And we talked about how like we tried so with you that kind of did not work out. And then we kept on going and then you got the scramble match position still and that too in a pretty good spot. Wanted to ask you like how was your experience kind of working with us? In terms of, do you feel that we did make a difference or not really? And be honest.
Yeah, because my application was all over the place. Everyone wants, at least in the US, everyone wants to hear that is the specialty that you really want to do and stick with. And in my case, it was not, right? Because I wanted a surgical residency from the start. And so I think it was very helpful. Your input was very statistics driven and something I could not have figured out on my own. So that's the main thing. You sat with me even during SOAP for at least an hour. And I think your strategy was right. I know that in SOAP,
Did not follow that.
I did not follow the strategy.
What was the strategy?
The strategy was to apply to family medicine and focus on one specialty. The strategy was to choose between specialty or wanting to match, and I should have picked one, but it's okay. I realized that retrospectively, but yes, a lot of stress would have been reduced if I had listened to you in a way. And actually, the match rate is really less for international grads in SOAP. So I feel like your advice on following up with the scramble, because you tend to give up after the SOAP and everybody thinks of next cycle. But your advice on following those 3 websites continuously and applying every day 3 to 4 hours, it's not a lot, and still applying and giving it a chance made me be where I am today. And
The interview as well. I hope you did not forget how much we worked on the interview.
Yeah. So you guys worked on me with every interviews. I got about 5 interviews post match. And the one I matched into was the last one. So I got progressively better. The second interview, I started seeking advice. And you guys have more experience, so it made sense together. And it all came together in the last one. I think few of the interviews, they almost considered me, but I screwed up on the interview day. So I feel like that made a lot of difference. And you'll almost know when you did bad and when you did not do bad. So yeah, I think that was helpful, like how to answer indirectly on interviews and not directly be very trying to flatter them. So that was one of the most useful advice I used on my last interview. So things like that, small things like that matter a lot, because once you go to the interview, you're on a level playing ground. And you might think others are not applying, but a lot of people are applying post-match too. So they do screen applications. And once you go on the interview, you should be sure to do well. And a good input is definitely needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
More importantly, just a point. I think more importantly, what we can do is we can just go by data and show what's more likely going to happen. At the end of the day, it's still the applicant's choice. We really value that choice. And all we can do is we can say that, hey, instead of applying to 35 categoricals in internal medicine, it looks if you pick 5 prelims or 3 prelim internal medicine, you are going to get into residency, which is more important than other aspects. Figure out the rest later, but let's get the foot. And that was the case with respect to many of the applicants we mentored as well. So when we say like match package or whatever other aspect, it will involve making sure that you get to a match. And what's important for one person or situation for one person will be different compared to the needs for another person. For context, someone might look great on paper, but their communication skill might not be that great. And now is actually a good time to work on it for the next 2 months or 3 months to get those things hammered out.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's a personal choice, but sometimes the situation and life gets complicated. And actually, like realistically, I face so many administrative problems even after getting to my program. So if you're a visa requiring candidate, it is going to be much harder from this year. It was not like this prior, and there's so many rules. The rules were always there, but there's so much more stringent monitoring. So I would say, do y'all apply? Take as much advice as you guys need from Manik or Kaushik, because statistics driven is the way to go. Statistics driven approach or advice is best to go. And also, please keep your application consistent or coherent, like Manik was saying. That is also, they read everything and they discuss that during the interviews. So
the reason I say so is because, again, like you're going to read a book like Pride and Prejudice that I showed you. And all of a sudden, when you open that book, it starts with some kind of 50 Shades of Grey. And they're like, what the hell? You're going to say, what the hell? This is meant to be there. So this is the same reaction that they have, where they see one point, even though it might not be conscious, it remains a bit unconscious. But when you're reading that book and it starts with 50 Shades of Grey, it's meant to be Pride and Prejudice. You're like, there's something off about this person. I'm not really sure. Like it could lead to a hindrance in the interview, number one. And then even after the interview, they'll be like, I'm not so sure about this person. The reason I say it is because I've been in countless rank order list meetings where I've seen them rank applicants. And these are the same conversations that happen where they say his PS says this, but the interview, he said this opposite thing. What the hell is going on? Let's put him to the bottom of the rank list or do not rank or DNR or something like that. And it's very little things because they have the choice. And you put in so much of the hard work. You've written the full draft of your book these many years. And then just that front cover, if it's not well organized, and I feel so bad because I've told my PDS, so many other people that they don't know how to write a PS, they don't know how to do these things. And they're like, we don't care, we got them.
they don't care. And they've done that for many years. So they can look at your application and judge. And even by the answers you say, a good practice session, a couple of practice sessions for the interviews would really be the most helpful thing.
That's what you think. Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. Do we have Chita or no?
Chita was unable to join. She was on call. When she comes in, I'll let you know. But we can.
Yeah. Can you showcase the whatever we have and then we can move the questions and maybe even can just talk about her experience if she's here.
Yes.
Hi. Hi, Dr. Manik, and hi, Dr. Kaushik. Am I audible?
Yeah. So Kaushik will just introduce whatever the packages we have. Again, I'm not sure. I don't think whatever spots we can talk about, but that's Shreya. Also talks about our experience. If you want to go to the website and talk about it. We mentored students who've gone to UPMC, whatever specialty you can think of. Pavani is currently working with us and you're applying. Could you just tell about your experience about how it has been and be honest as much as possible?
Yes, Dr. Manik. So, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Me and I'm applying for March 2026. So, this is a story of my personal statement. I tried to do it on my own. I struggled for 1-2 months and I actually created my personal statement. And in the end, I felt like it was so flat and generic. And it was just like my CV. It wasn't what, like, the soul wasn't coming out. That's when I met team, had a call with, and then later I got enrolled. They arranged a session for me with Dr. Manik. I had a similar brainstorming session which we had with Dr. Muhammad today. And while doing the session, I felt I dug deeper into myself and I actually learned what I am during the session. And post that, like within few days, they gave me a draft of my personal statement and it sounded really good. It sounded like me and the language was very good. I had no complaints for the personal statement. So I would suggest this to anyone who is like second guessing their personal statement or not having that ideas, because even the brainstorming session helped me a lot. I did not know like so much about myself, which I learned during the session.
Yeah. Could you just tell me what are your signature strengths? There must be a few signature strengths that you must remember, and that's going to come out in the interview. It's going to come out in the other parts. Just a few signature strengths that we came with, like beyond the PS.
Yes. First strength was the beginner's mindset, which you guys elicited from me, that I can start anything from scratch. And like, even though if do not know that, like I'm agent, I take ownership and responsibility was something you elicited. And that showed up in my personal statement, which was very good. I couldn't have done it by myself.
And also you're working with like one of our mentors. So how frequently are the sessions? How frequently do you meet, and what are the guidance that you get?
So there is like, I took the match package from Team USMLE Wise. So every week we have sessions with the mentor. I'm applying for family medicine and internal medicine basically. And the mentor helps me with my program list, reviewing my program list. I make my program list and then they review it and give me insights about it. We meet every week for at least 1 to 2 hours. Either it would be a group session or a one-on-one session discussing specifically on my application, if it is in like a one-on-one session. And that is very insightful because that is something I'm getting from an experienced person. I have my seniors who have already matched, but they weren't accountable to me. They weren't like teaching me what I wanted and did not have time. Like I cannot complain about that as well. They did not have time to do that for me. But through you guys, I met my mentor and they're teaching me everything in detail and explaining like why this is the meaningful section for me, like a Mera's CV. Or
can you talk about I know we haven't even gone to the interviewing because it's going to come later. For your match application strategy, like what changed? Because the thing is, you should only get something if it's going to change things. Like you should not get this package if you think it's not going to change things. I'm going to be very honest. But what has changed in your application strategy? Because when we first met, you're like, hey, I just want IM. What changed like through our work together?
So I would say it was similar to what Dr. Shreya was talking about. I wanted IM. When I spoke to you guys, you counseled me like how FM suits me. I also had a post-graduation training in family medicine, which is on my side. And I have better chances to get into FM than I am. With my experiences, my scores, everything, I was falling into place where FM would be my big choice than I am. And I had more chances to match into FM. So that's what changed me completely. And that's actually true. It was all data driven and like, I did not.
Is it okay? So there was a red flag.
Yes.
There is data that supports. I can show you that red flag where PDs were asked. There was a study done all over the US, the very latest study, and it talks about which PDs would be okay with that red flag. And it's showed that in specialties like internal medicine, PDs would not even consider it a lot. Or in general surgery, they wouldn't consider it a lot. But if it's family medicine, if it's peds, and if it's in psychiatry, whatever red flag you had, PDs would have been okay with it. And they were pretty accepting based on that study for the interview. And that's where it came in is you got to go for family medicine. Please don't waste your like a lot of effort. Like you're dual applying and that's good. I'm here to support. How did that change your signaling?
So right now I'll get more chances to signal. That's one thing because I'm applying 2 specialties. And for FM it would be my primary specialty, secondary specialty would be, and I would say you guys are explaining me why that program suits me well and why should I signal there. The mentor is actually explaining that to me.
The mentor is looking at your list and going side opening program
like
website.
He's going through all my programs, each one where I have contacts, where I have like more chances of getting in, how my values or my capabilities align with that program. And they're going through each program, basically my whole program list.
Yeah. So the reason I bring out is, guys, if you want to go to other websites, please go to other match packages or whatever. The reason that we have put in a one-to-one mentor every week is because that makes a huge Like right now, if you go to data, the number one like predictor of whether you get an interview or not is signal, right? At least in internal medicine, 90% of the interviews that program sends are to the signals. Let's say, we get, let's say Pavani, and she starts applying to just, let's say, family medicine based upon her application where she is. If she just signals academic programs and that's what she thinks she's going to get, and they're not even in a geographical preference, they're in a very other place, she would lose out on all this hard work that she has done. She would lose out on step 1, step 2, whatever she's done, because they're going to discard that thing. It's not data driven. However, if she were to signal the right way, like for example, choosing the right program, that would take her, there is evidence of IMGs being there. Apart from that, we have contacts in that programs and we know they will take her. So we use that data to tell them that this is where you should go. Likely rural, don't go to urban areas, go to an area where other people wouldn't signal that place. And an example is if you apply to Albert Einstein. So this is not Albert Einstein, this is the Jacobi program. Jacobi is basically a waste of a signal if you're signaling there, because every IMG is going to signal it. You have a 270, it doesn't matter. They're not going to, there's just so, it's useless. What you want is contrarian signaling. Contrarian signaling is basically game theory where you're looking at where is everyone else going to signal. I want to signal into a place that would take me, but other people might not signal it as much. If you, let's say, have some red flags or a poor application, that's what we call as contrarian signaling. If you look at like match theory and game theory, whatever that we've been studying over the last year, contrarian signaling works way better than going to New York and signaling all programs that everyone else is going to signal, and it's meaningless. Because like you've given them so many super likes or whatever, everyone has great applications, it doesn't differentiate. But you want to build your application towards one type that other people might not signal as much, and you have a higher chance of going there. That's what we are working with. Me and others, so many, we have other people as well. If you want to talk to them, or we build your residency program list with you, we signal, we give one-to-one signaling advice. It's not some bullshit where we tell everyone to do the same thing. You get weekly sessions. If you go with like the Match Pro or whatever the Match Maximizer package is, Kaushik, you can talk about the specifics. Just quickly, what's in the essentials, what's in the Match Pro, and then what's the difference.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you.
I would start with the Match Maximizer. I think this is basically for someone who has any sort of red flag. I would highly recommend you to take it because it is a lot of work and a lot of resources. What you would get here is, let's say from now, what can you make changes in your application that can get you into residency? Let's say you are primarily focused in IM, don't have much in FM. We can do a couple of things that will get you to change to an FM application. That's number one. Could be pediatrics as well. Then here you will get unlimited editing for all of your documents, personalized match strategy, where we'll go over each and every program that you are applying to, tailoring your personal statements with respect to the program and developing coherent application for you. That's number one. Number two is any communication that you have to do with the program. What I would say is program engagement. That is something that we will help you with. Any emails that you have to write, any contacts that you are reaching out to, making a list of your contacts, etc. Any communication that you have to have with anyone professionally, we will help you with it.
That brings out, and I kid you not, you guys don't know this, but the way like a lot of people write to these programs, it turns them off. I am not even kidding. Like we had one applicant and the way she talks, and it's not her fault, it's out of innocence, because you're not trained how to communicate with these people, how to read the role. You end up like pissing people off. People like, I'll give you an example. Somebody sent me an email on my like work email, right? Some international medical, it's out of innocence. It's not out of, they just do not know better. So I'm not that offended. But then writing, review my CV, edit, send him. I hope you won't do that, but I don't know like what I owe that review his CV, edit it and send it back. Like that's just one very blunt example. But a lot of the times people communicate with these programs and they lock doors because they just don't know how to be nice to people or how to, and we have seen that a lot. So that's why we want to take over any kind of communications you have, and it's has to go.
Yes. And predominantly, we try to make sure that you also get networking sessions where we, let's say for now, we have told applicants
it's below.
Networking is below. So I'm so sorry. Oh my God. For the any documentation, your personal statement, all your signals will get individual personal statements. That's there. Your ERA CV will have multiple revisions. We have till September 15 to go over any revisions to your ERA CV. any letter of recommendation. Let's say we ask you to change your dual apply. In that case, we will work with you, reach out to your acceptor and try to get them to upload another personal statement. Some faculty can write an FM letter of recommendation for you. So that part is going to be there. Any letter of interest or letter of intent, and like I mentioned, any professional communication with the program, you had your open house, you want something reached out, that's something that we'll be able to do. Along with the thank you letters, who to thank, who else can you reach out to? That is something that we do. And like I mentioned, any communication email, we have added a couple of things because we have noticed that it is quite important. Then, like you saw, the rigor that we apply to the personal statement, we have the same thing for interview prep as well. When it comes to our match maximizer, here you will get 4 hours of one-on-one training along with access to my interview prep course, and you'll potentially have 1 session with Manik in this program. Either ways, whatever interviews that you get, let's say you get 5 interviews, 6 interviews, we support up to 10 interviews for you. And this will be one of the people from our team who is helping you with it. Then the most important thing, networking. Everyone keeps asking, how do I network? What do I network, right? Here we'll tell you what are the events that you can potentially attend. And since you're in this call, one of the 2 events that are coming up is CHEST and ACR. Both are in Chicago. They're from October 24th to 28th. Show up over there. We know some program leadership who will definitely be there. Residents will be there. We'll show you how to talk to them, what to ask them, what programs are there. One PD, I remember she was very passionate about taking some research classes. And when people joined her research classes, at least got an invite, and that's completely free. And there's like networking section, and importantly, what to speak to them, what to ask and how to ask. That is something that we will coach you particular to that session. Even when you have any networking event, one of the event that we sent our match package student to was, she's from Bad. So there is this Ahmed doctors or people from Gujarat doctors. They have this organization and they meet. Who do you network with? Who's more likely gonna give you an interview? So that is something that we'll be able to do over there. And like we said, we are still liable for you to match, and we make sure that anything you need, even through SOAP, we'll sit with you. It will be like sessions where we'll tell you that, hey, this is the data that we have. This is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. And we'll support you through the match week, the SOAP week as well. Then even post SOAP, there will be scramble, right? Though, like you saw Dr. Shreya, she was an IMG who required visas. She still got in. But in most cases, scramble would be for people who have visas. But if we are able to get within the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, then you have higher chances of getting into the rest. We'll help you with that. And obviously there are our research programs as well. We have our workshop coming up where you'll be able to work on CDC database, and you'll be able to at least put it on your CV that you have worked with US database, and you will be getting a letter of recommendation and a certificate from one of our partners who is working in Baylor. Then we do have our research program as well. That is our research program. And either ways, you will have our turnaround time, which will be ideally, I tell my team the turnaround time is 6 hours. So when you message us, within 6 hours, you will get a reply, no matter what.
WhatsApp, you'll be like connected with us. And if you have any issues, whatever, just text us WhatsApp, and responses are way fast. You don't do email as much. You can again email, but it's much slower. But that's why we have a whole team dedicated to just supporting the match process. And they're very responsive. Like they're supposed to be there like at least once a day. And there's somebody always there.
Yes. So that's what you're going to get. And when it comes to the other plans, you do have the Match Pro. Here, you do get some aspects of it, but it obviously cannot be as comprehensive as the $6,000 package. But what I can assure you is you can review the Match Pro and look at what the competitors are doing or what other companies are doing. We have a table, which we will share it with you. and then you can be the judge for yourself. And what I've been getting requests is for people who are asking that, hey, can you prepare my program list, or can you review this, review that? But I would say when it comes to your program list, we would only be able to do it in the Match Pro package, because whenever we want to do something, we want to do a good job, and it takes a lot of time and effort and resources. So there will be one person sitting with you, making sure that they're working on your program list or giving you like these particular variables for you. Let's say we had some colleagues from Pakistan who were there. There are particular universities or programs in the US that predominantly take people from Pakistan. So there you should be having a more targeted approach. And there are predominantly programs that take people from India, and that is based on your profile as well. So that is something that we can give guidance with. So this is the overview, and you will get like access to most of our services. And like I said,
What's in Match Maximizer that's not in Match Pro?
what's in Match Maximizer that's not in Match Pro? One is with the networking. Second thing is the amount of times that we'll be able to edit the document, and the amount of times that we'll be able to edit the CV and making like your application. That would not be included with the Match Pro. And we will give you guidelines and templates for communication emails, but we would not be able to edit it for you. And like we said, we keep a turnaround time of 6 hours. So we would not be able to have the resources to do that in that context.
Okay. And lastly, the essentials package. That's something for if you're interested more in essentials, and it's okay if budget is a constraint. And let's say you have already a good enough application and you're agentic, you can just feel you have the network, we can get in, we want to support you. Still, in the essentials package, it's already going down. You will have access to a physician mentor who will sit with you, develop your personal statement, just like I did. It will be just for one specialty. We'll give you access to, again, you have access to them. Apart from that, we'll do ERA CV with you. What we can't help you here with is with signaling, because again, we need a specific match mentor. It takes a lot of time. Our financial resources wise, we can't afford that in this. And we can help you with the basic revisions of the PS and CV. If you keep going down, you do get access to a recording classes like of the current cohort, where if you want to, let's say, change anything, if you get access to our current cohort, where on group meetings, where you can just go and self-educate yourself about the current best practices about the match. And it's more of do it by yourself, but we'll help you with the document, important things like ERA CV and the personal statement. If you go down here, we give you access to the interview prep course as well, and 1 hour of interview prep training. I think that's pretty decent. And we can help you with basic guidelines for Scramble. And we'll give you access to any bonus resources that you want. And we don't include any research access in this. You will still have access here if you want. So that's like the whole packages. Let us know again if you're interested. If not, that's fine too. That's completely okay. I hope I was able to help you guys with the whole process of even drafting a PS. Lastly, if again you want to sign up for this, we count the credit. Whatever you paid for this class is a credit to anything you get. So this class will technically become free for you. For the match packages or whatever, it will count as a credit. So if you paid, let's say $20-40, we'll cut it off any PS service or whatever, then that's fine. We want to make it more appealing, whatever. But let us know, like, how long do you anticipate like that these will remain? Like whatever, how many spots do we have? Because I'm not like currently aware of the spots in all of these.
Now we have around 7 slots that are open. So we would not be able to open more of the slots. So they would have to reach out, and we want to keep like a deadline for when they would be able to use the credit as well. So I think that the deadline that the team decided was on the 25th, that is on Monday.